Hello and welcome to League of Legends, the first episode of Season 14, the game where everything changes, nothing is sacred, and anything you like will be gone. And we got some perfect examples of that in this super long episode. I am Chris, and as always, is my patch review duo partner, Jason.
Hey, Chrissy, good to be back with you. This is, I guess, League's 14th season, our third. We're making something here for our dozens of viewers, and yeah, I'm interested to talk about 14.1. Even though the item changes are longer than the U.S. tax code, and like you said, everything changes and nothing remains the same. Let's get into this brave new world.
I just like to preface this. I've tried to oppose or approach this with an open mind, and I'm trying to stay very positive. That
hmm
being said, there are some things that I actually like. There are some interesting things, but there are some really things that I did not like, of course, as well. But I've tried to stay relatively neutral on a lot of these changes. But overall, I feel like there was a lot of unnecessary changes. There were some things I really liked, though, for
Well,
sure.
I'm glad that you can be the Switzerland to my I don't know which country contributed absolutely nothing.
So what? World War II?
Yeah, you can be the Switzerland to my Galapagos Islands.
Okay, let's hop right into it. We'll be doing some of the game changes first, and then we'll be finishing things up with the item changes, as that's in a different page. So, first things first, we're going to go down to this huge section. And you stop me if I skip by it and there's something else you want to talk about. Let me see what the first thing I think was of some significance here. I don't want to talk about fist bumps. Okay, the lethality. Lethality seems like the most interesting first thing I see here. And
Uh-huh.
that's because this is actually just going back to
Armor
Armor Pen
penetrate.
like it was like 5 years or 6, 7 years ago or whatever it was. One thing
Yeah,
I noticed though is they didn't really mess with a ton of the lethality items, so I got to imagine this is going to be very strong initially. Probably is going to predictably result in a lot of item changes. Go figure.
it's possible it will. I like this as I like this as a cause. What we'll see as we go through a lot of it. One of the really nice things they did is they simplified a lot of the stupidly complex, like sliding numbers that have a condition based on this and a condition based on who you're targeting and how many champions you're around, and just change something to a nice flat number. So you can understand what the item is doing for you at all times.
I will
And
say that, yeah, a lot of the legendaries, since there's no more mythics now, they're very streamlined text, very easy to understand now, whereas the mythics would have a lot to say.
right, and we understood in the past, right? Even when they had this like weird 62.22% to 100% scaling, that lethality helped you pierce squishies easier. But you weren't really sure exactly how much you were getting from either each point of lethality or from the lethality items you were buying. It was a lot of unnecessary math, and to simplify that into simpler math, that's easier to kind of understand during gameplay. I appreciate this. Now, what this will do, like you said, is it's going to make lethality better in the early mid to mid game, and no worse in the late game. They did get rid of a couple of the most like crazy assassin items. Some of them that I kind of missed, like the Duskblade, which makes you untargetable for a couple seconds. But
Yeah, let's get to
yeah,
the items later.
yeah. So I'm saying I don't know that assassins are going to be much stronger in general, especially since mages were given a boost this patch. But certainly the lethality will be better in general than it was a few patches ago. And just for the simplification, I like it. Now, about the fist bumps, you know that even though this first one's free, they're going to use this as an excuse to sell all these like premium 700 RP emotes that they want your whole team to get, so that you can actually do the animation together.
Mm-hmm.
Just had to rub it in. Let's keep going.
Well, since you mentioned like which classes are going to be on top and what's, I'm
Mhm.
not sure where mages are going to land because I think mages actually lost like the most amount of items. So I honestly feel like it's gonna like the new Ludens, which is basically the same as the old Ludens. I feel like the new one is actually even stronger. So I feel like mages are going to be kind of shoehorned even more into basically building Ludens first and nothing else now that they've taken away
Right.
all of the like mythic options that they used to get.
How?
Another
Um.
thing I
Mhm.
honestly like to say, I think tanks and assassins, as AD assassins that is, are actually going to be really strong this patch because of some mythics that you can now buy simultaneously that have now become legendaries. And one thing I like to say, and we'll touch on this when we get to it in the items thing, is they added a lethality version of Ravenous Hydra, and I think this is going to introduce a very unhealthy element to the game because now it's basically giving uh, assassins a synergistic item to help them with wave clear, whereas before they would have had to have given Ravenous Hydra, which didn't have armor pen on it. And the thing of assassins are supposed to like not have as good wave clear as like mages. That's supposed to be
Mhm.
something that like balances them out. And I feel like this was a big boo boo to give them a Tiamat item basically.
Yeah, Assassin's been better at clearing waves recently anyway. Neferi can always clear waves in Rome, like Talon can one-shot waves. But I see your point, and I was wondering why they had created that lethality Hydra item. And you're right, it's probably for wave clear. Yeah, let's talk about that some more later, but I think you make a good point. I think that even if mages might be a little bit more shoehorned into certain items, the fact that there's an item that's very strong for them and the other items they can choose between are not that bad, as well as some of the game changes that we'll talk about, like the map terrain, will be very good for mages. I think they will be stronger. I think tanks are probably the most benefited by what they've done. Tanks and fighters, to an extent, are going to be benefited the most by what they've done in this preseason. And if the tanks come out on the better end, ADCs, who didn't lose anything from Kraken Slayer, by the way, um, will also kind of see a boost in how useful they are. If the fighter end of it comes out better because of the way that they're making solo lane, top lane, more of a true solo lane, then it's possible that ADCs will not end up coming out so well because the fighters will get so strong. But I think tanks and fighters are probably the big winners, and junglers might be the big losers here.
Yeah, maybe. I got a
All
lot
right.
to say about the items.
Yeah, me too, man.
All right, I'm going to kind of gloss over these mini quest things they added to the game. Suffice it to say, some of them are actually kind of powerful, especially the Shen Zed one, I think,
Uh
is
huh.
actually a pretty good reward for Shen specifically. That's
Yeah,
definitely strong on his passive, which is already pretty consistently
Zed has a
useful.
good reward there too, here, but I think that Shen's quest is much easier to complete than Zed's.
Yeah, and then over here with the Nasus reward, definitely seems useful.
You know what I would have liked them to do for the Shen one? He had to save somebody that Zed was attacking with his Stand United to win
That
the
would
quest.
probably be way too easy.
Um, maybe, but if Zed kills that target once, it would be over.
Okay, don't have much to say about this. They're definitely more impactful than the previous two or three that were in the game, that's for sure.
I like that, and I really like that that these are all like a two-sided thing that both sides can get rewards instead of something like, "Oh, people with sunglasses take one less damage from Leona or whatever." Like this is actually something that two people on opposing teams and maybe their teammates can do a little bit of gameplay around. It's cute. I'd be fine if they never put this in the game and just took out all those other quests like Kha'Zix Rengar.
I always liked the Kha'Zix Rengar one. That one's probably the most powerful, honestly.
I mean, it's fine, right?
Rengar
I
can
don't
get
think it's
like 30 or 40 extra AD from that, and Kha'Zix being able to evolve all four of his abilities is pretty strong. That
the
one's
one that
by
does
far
seem
the strongest one.
The one that does seem really imbalanced is Bel'Veth versus Jax. Bel'Veth gets like a one time like like one little part of her ult. Jax can kill Belveth over and over and over to get 50-60% attack speed, bonus attack speed by the end of the game.
I mean, I don't think these trigger more than once.
I was reading the official notes yesterday. It said each time Jax kills Belveth after Oh, Belveth is rewarded with the spawning each time she scores a takedown against Jax. What we're looking at here, I think they might have missed that Jax gets it every time he scores a takedown against Belveth as well. But it's possible that I'm wrong.
Okay, well, that's pretty good too, I guess.
Yeah. Alright.
Alright, next up we've got an Omnivamp change. This is also pretty interesting too, because basically what it did is it keeps the pathetic levels of sustain for healing off of area of effect damage versus minions and monsters, but now you get 100% of that sustain if it's an area or pet damage versus champions. So it's kind of, I actually think this is probably way more strong than it is. Well, of course it has to be way more strong.
I agree it's more strong, although I think it's also more fair. What do you think? Because, like, the ability to just, like, Omnivamp off of a single minion and get, like, 600, health back. I mean, I guess you're not going to have 100% Omnivamp, but, to get hundreds of health back, versus if you blow it up with an AoE attack, you get almost nothing. I like this better. And it correctly rewards champ damage.
Yeah, it really rewards the wombo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's kind of makes sense, honestly. Plus, the last few years, they've really been clamping down on sustain champions get versus minions or monsters versus champions. A lot of champions that used to have no modifier for that have, like, modifiers for that shit now.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Next up, we've got some small champion changes. I'm actually surprised they didn't rework half the roster to take advantage of the preseason. Very shocking, actually, but I suspect with those lethality changes, we'll get our, like, pound of flesh from assassin changes or something. Knowing them, they'll probably just change every single assassin instead of reducing lethality by, like, 1 or 2.
Reducing the items by 2 lethality apiece?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Alright, we can talk about Hui. I know you said he is like 1v5 potential, but now that I've seen him played many times now, I'm still of the opinion that he's very balanced. I definitely think he's strong, but I don't think he's overpowered at all. I've laned against him a few times. I don't think he's super dominant in the laning phase. He's just average. I think he's a lot similar to like Lux or Xerath or something. Pretty balanced, I think.
So I think he's much more similar to Aurelion Sol. And not in terms of the playstyle, but in terms of the power curve throughout the game. Interestingly, Riot said that they believe that long term he's overpowered, and the community just hasn't quite caught on yet. So his win rates were not that high.
Could be.
Riot said that, and they think that they're going to. They said that they're buffing him for now, and they think they're going to have to nerf him. Like late this year.
Can't really compare him to Aurelion Sol since he just can snowball permanently.
Yeah, Hui can't snowball permanently, but he or not snowball, scales permanently, but Hui scales very, very hard, just as hard as Asol until maybe the super late game, and maybe even then. Then we got Vel'Koz, just a quality of life, shorter travel time on Tectonic Disruption is his E, right? Or is it his W?
It's his E.
It's his E. So that's the knockup, and just making it a little bit easier to hit. I think this was a late change, right? I don't think this was in the original patch notes.
No, I think this was here the first time I saw it. This is definitely a buff for when someone's right on top of your nuts, though. This was already very hard to react to and kind of difficult to notice, like unlike Cho's like Q or something.
That's fair, and at the same time, it's also it's not a super disruptive skill. It doesn't knock you up for very long. It doesn't slow you for long afterwards, and I don't think it slows you at all. In fact, if you don't have the Rylai's, right?
True, but the closer you are to Vel'Koz when this hits you, the more that this pushes you away from Vel'Koz.
Yeah, that's right. It's a knockback. But I don't know. Generally, when I play Vel, like I can use this to buy myself a little bit of time. I can't use this to get myself away.
Yep. They really wanted to make it even better. They should have increased like the travel time by like 30%, the projectile or the animation or whatever. That
Yeah,
would
I
have
wouldn't
made it
mind.
that would have made it really dangerous because it's already kind of hard to react to.
Yeah. One other way they could have gone for it is made it a little bit harder to hit, but increased the knockback.
Maybe. I personally think Vel'Koz is a very, very balanced champion who's in a
Yeah,
good
I think he's
spot right
fine.
now.
I don't think he's been in a good spot in the last season just because of the assassin craziness. But I think it's not the fault of balancing Vel'Koz, and it's just like the type of champ that he is. And I think maybe with some of these changes this season, he'll be good again.
I think he's stronger now than he's ever been because over the last 2 years, his passive has been buffed a few times, and so is his Q. Like when he came out, his Q used to have like a 60% AP ratio. Now it's all the way up to like 90.
His numbers are stronger. It's just like the game state in season 13 did not favor Vel'Koz at all. So with a different game state, yeah, he'll be stronger than ever.
All right, next up, crazy jungle garbage. Let's talk about Eye of the Herald, and this is something I definitely thought was completely unnecessary change here. I really actually, it took me a little while to warm up to the idea of Rift Herald, but once I was used to the like extra thing objective in the Baron Pit, I was actually pretty happy with it, and I was the most happy during the period where Rift Herald existed and you could actually interrupt someone summoning Rift Herald. I thought that was
That was fun to do.
some of the best outplay potential and opportunism in the game that they ever had. And then they were quick to get rid of that for some crazy ass reason. And now
It
this
was
new
probably
thing.
just really frustrating to be because you have to put in a lot of effort early game to get the Gerald if you're not ahead.
Yeah, but it's your own damn fault, and it
It is your
should
own damn
reward
fault.
you for catching someone doing that.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I think there's two sides to it.
All right, now we got this new Rift Herald, which is more of like a circus act now. I'm not sure I won't even go through all these numbers. The gist of it is now someone can jump on it and man it and launch it at a champion or launch it at a turret again, and it does damage also based on the level of the person riding it and stuff like that. It's pretty much the same, except now some goofy person jumps on it for some dumb reason,
I
and
think
you
it's optional, right?
and you get a shield while you're on it. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, there's some interesting outplay potential. And I'm sorry, were you done or no?
that's pretty much the gist of it. They just made it sillier.
Yeah, well, one thing that they, I think made a big change with here is basically that, basically you are able to commandeer this into fights. You don't need to be going straight at an enemy turret if you don't want to. You can actually use this as a team fight tool. I think you can use your skills while you're riding it. Oh no, it says unable to act.
I don't know why they keep changing Rift Herald. They literally had this thing like pretty perfect from when it came out.
Once a champion, it's not clear from the way that they're wording it here, but I believe that you can use your skills while you're riding Gerald.
That doesn't make sense. If you're like untargetable and vulnerable,
No, that's
displacement
only for the
immune.
0.75 second windup.
Well,
I think once you're on it, you're targetable, you're vulnerable, and I think that you have to steer Gerald himself, but I think that you can use your skills regularly, based on some of the background that they gave on other iterations they tried of this. That's my understanding, or at least guess. I don't know. I like this. I like the idea that you can either use it to go after an enemy turret, and they increase the reward a little bit for actually running yourself into the enemy turret. You do bounce back pretty far once you do, so it's and you get the shield, so it's some safety there. And you can also use this to disrupt the fight, almost like you're a Galio or something like that. I have to admit, I think this is pretty cool. I like the idea of going Doctor Strangelove on a Void monster.
Yeah, I think they've made Rift Herald, which was just kind of default cool, into a bit of a parody now.
Did you ever use the sleigh in Arena?
I never played Arena because it just looks stupid.
Okay, I thought you played it once and then thought it was stupid. Yeah, there was a sleigh in Arena that allowed you to control it, and you basically tried to ram yourself into the enemies to do damage and knock them up at the beginning of each fight. If you chose that augment, it was a specific augment you had to choose. It was hard to control, but it was pretty fun. Anyway, I understand this is a little bit silly and it's a little bit different from like how you expect things to work in the game. I like this. We'll see how it works in practice.
Alright, next up, we've got some rune shenanigans. No more stopwatch being nerfed 65,000 times. Instead, we have something new called Triple Tonic. And now this gives you 3 forgettable elixirs at different points in the game. One of them gives you 40 gold, one of them gives you some bonus stats, and one of them lets you finish your skills at 17 instead of 18. So, not really too much to write home about, I gotta be honest. Probably the level 6 one. You can bust that as soon as you hit 6, and combo with your ultimate when your opponent's at level 5 is probably the only one of consequence.
Um, yes and no, in my opinion. I agree that like for an inspiration room, this is a little bit uninspired. But it's just a minor rune. It's not a keystone. It's not like it's supposed to be something replacing kleptomancy. Um, and I think that power-wise, this is probably fine. This is probably equivalent to the one-use stopwatch that you were getting that was worth 0 gold essentially.
I tell you, if they
Um,
wanted to make this cool, they should have just straight up given you a 25% chance to generate one of these 3 items every time you consumed a charge of refillable or corrupting potion or regular potion.
that would be extremely overpowered.
Well,
Every time you
it'd only be like a 25% chance, so most times you drink up,
So
you
every
wouldn't get
time you
some.
refilled your refillable potion, you would get an average of almost 1 elixir of skill. You'd have 18 skill points before level 9.
Well, it'd be a 25% chance and then a 1 in
Uh-huh.
3
But you
chance
have
just to
three.
get
You
that
have
one.
three. You have 3 charges every time you refill it. I think that what you're saying would be very overpowered. I think it might even be overpowered as a keystone, quite honestly.
With the skill
Um,
one, you might be right. They might have to change the
yeah,
elixir of skill to something even stupider.
yeah, that's fair. If they changed elixir of skill, maybe it wouldn't be as overpowered. And they took the gold off of avarice.
No, I think that would be cool to have something that was like some extra generating type of rune. There's so little like cool gold generation items in the game now. Like in the old days, there used to be all kinds of goofy side things that you could take to generate gold. Whether that was your seals, or some goofy things in your masteries, or all the gold per 5 items that actually didn't build into retarded shit back then.
Mhm.
Okay, I mean, and a lot of champions had like gold generation on abilities and stuff. I don't know, it was a different time.
So let me say what I do sort of like about this rune. And again, I don't think it's great, but level 3 is giving you bonus damage against minions on hit. This is the time in the game when you either want to rush to another level for an advantage, or more likely clear your wave so you can make an early roam to another lane as a support or a mid laner.
Probably should have made
Level
it
6.
25 then.
Uh, yeah, they could have made it. Just gotten rid of the gold. Level 6. Uh, Adaptive Force is going to be the most valuable around this point in the game. And 12 AD or 20 ability power for your first all-in 1v1 after you have ult or both people have their ult is worthwhile. And then level 9, the extra skill point for the rest of the game. This is basically once you've already gotten 5 skill points in the thing that you're rushing, everything after that is more utility than it is, straight up damage or power. So to be a little bit ahead on that for the rest of the game is nice, but it's not game breaking. I think this rune is fine, right? If you don't want the free boots because you need to be able to buy your boots earlier, and you don't want whatever other crappy rune is in that line of the tree, then this will do just fine if you're using something like I don't know, Glacial Augment, and you just don't have a lot of good minor runes and inspiration that you want.
Yep. Alright, next thing up, we got some goofy ass monster changes. Big thing here is after the Baron spawns, the red buff, the blue buff, and the Rift Scuttler thing, when they die, they get replaced by a new version that does something slightly different. For red and blue, it just gives the buff to your entire team, and for the Rift Scuttler, it reveals the map in a huge area and detects all the wards. And it doesn't transfer to the killers anymore, the buffs, although that would have been hilarious, I think, if they would have kept that. So
Yeah, I mean, with the fact that there's going to be two of them on the map, I mean, almost everybody's going to have it for a few minutes anyway.
Yeah, but it would have sorted itself out, I think, pretty fast. It would have just been a funny moment to add to the game.
Yeah, it would have been pretty funny. Um,
That's
yeah.
pretty much the gist of that. And then next up, we've got some Baron changes, and couldn't leave a good thing alone. I actually don't like the direction they took this. I don't like having 3 different Barons. I would have liked to have just had one Baron with drastically updated abilities that are more damning and exciting.
More interesting abilities would have been nice, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this, for instance. And then each one of the new Barons also has a different shaped pit. Those also look a bit goofy in my opinion. One of them I kind of like, but they didn't kind of go far enough. And I think that's the Territorial one, who has kind of this long trench. Except, I think it would have been cooler if they didn't add the hole at the end of the trench. If it was just that long tunnel, I think that actually would have been kind of cool. I think Territorial is the one with the long trench that goes towards the north jungle.
I think All-Seeing Baron is the one with the trench. You're talking about the one that comes in from the mid lane direction?
Yeah, sorta.
Yeah, I think that's the All-Seeing Baron, who's basically using the lines in that area. I think Territorial Baron is the one that pulls, and I think that's the one that has basically more less terrain around the Baron pit to make escapes easier, but he can pull you back in.
Yeah.
I think the trench one is the most interesting. I agree with you on that count. And really is going to change the way that you approach the Baron fight from one of 2 different directions.
Don't really feel like they kind of addressed what I would have liked to have seen. This kind of looks like they just changed it to be boring in a different way, if I had to give my opinion on it.
I don't know that I agree. I would like to see it in practice. They had some wackier stuff at first. One of the things that they actually did while they were iterating on different things in Baron is they made basically thousands of Ornn pillars all over the map. They use the Ornn pillars because their terrain isn't coded to be destructible. And then Baron would shoot out all these waves in all different directions, and it would destroy the Ornn pillars, basically dynamically creating terrain around that half of the map. And I don't know how it actually worked in his encounter. I know that when he spawned, he would shoot out all these things, but I don't know if you could continue to destroy terrain after that or what.
Right, it just gets more silly every year. They just don't realize what a stable gem of a game that they have. They just need to make it more and more stupid and silly and fringy. I mean, at this point in the game's history, it's probably truthful to say that the game is over its peak and is only going downhill now. And,
it's possible that they see that, right? And then they look at how successful a version of the game like Urfus or Nexus Blitz was. And they say, okay, maybe we can add some of that fun to the game without anything too crazy, while also addressing some of the design issues that we have identified in the game. And sometimes they get too cute in doing it. I'll grant you that.
I think League is going down the same flawed design direction that World of Warcraft went down. They made so many crazy systems and added so many goof things and have made so many crazy changes that it just turns off basically all potential new players wanting to pick up the game. So all that leaves is the old geezers like us who have been playing for several years, and then over time they just keep going down an even more crazy, turbulent, change-filled direction, And then since there's no new people playing, it just alienates existing old timers like us who like tired of watching the game in such insane flux with goofy shit happening nonstop, and then you just end up with a slowly dying game.
So I respect that argument, but the flip side to that argument is that, in addition to the fact that a new player is probably going to enjoy something like, piloting a Rift Herald, if the meta becomes too stale, or basically like the ability to understand and master the game, which this is a hard game to master, but it's been 14 seasons. A lot of us guys who have been around for a long time have mastered at least the theoretical or textbook side of the game. That a new player is going to have such a disadvantage against the people who have been here for 14 seasons, that if they don't mix things up and put the people who have been here for a long time on their toes, those new players are going to be at such a disadvantage. They're going to be expected by the existing community to know so much, or they're going to be called all types of horrible names, that it's going to turn them off, and they won't ever get a new player base. So I think part of the idea might be to, and I'm just guessing here, I don't think I've ever seen Riot say this specifically. Part of the idea might be to close the divide a little bit in terms of the knowledge gap between the players who have been here forever and the players who are new. And keep things shaken up for the sake of being shaken up, so that the people who are newer have a chance once they've been playing for 6 months, 1 year, to be decent.
You know what? I listened to everything you said, but I'm not sure what point you were trying to make.
Basically, that the game becomes too insular. A lot of the old MMOs that aren't World of Warcraft have had that problem, where over a lot of years they become too insular. There's way too much advantage and knowledge gained by the existing player base, and new players feel like they never have a chance.
I'm honestly surprised League hasn't gone in that direction. Just add Paragon levels, Diablo 3 style. Make all the old players start with a couple extra hit points.
All right. Let's stop suggesting anything that Blizzard does these days.
All right, let's skip all the way down to the new monster on the Rift, because, of course, there's still room in this game for a fucking another camp. Why don't you run us through the Void Grub and the Void Mites, and what's the point?
Okay, this is an early game objective. So I guess let's first of all just explain what it is. It's basically an early game objective that spawns at a few minutes. There's a bunch of these little Void Grubs. You can attack them individually. You don't have to attack them as an encounter. And each one spawns, when you attack it, they spawn 4 little guys. What are they called? Void Mites? Yeah, Void Mites. And those Void Mites are the things that attack you. And when you kill a Void Grub, you get a stack of Touch of the Void, which gives you like slightly better. Oh, it gives your whole team, I think, a stack of Touch of the Void, which, as I understand, gives you like a slight bonus of towers for the entire game. It wasn't quite clear whether there was a limited timer on that or it's for the entire game. But kind of the big thing to know about this, unless you're like a Cho'Gath, in which you should know that you can get 2 permanent stacks, one by killing the first Void Grub, and the second by killing any Void Grub that spawns. But for everybody else, what you need to know is you can basically just run over, take 1 or 2 of these guys. You don't have to take the whole encounter, and give your team a little bit of a buff against towers. Other thing to know is that this is an early game objective, and at around 14 minutes, when turret plates fall, they're going to replace it with the Rift Herald.
I actually found this to be one of the more confusing changes. So why don't you just skip? I'm going to run you through a list of presumptions, and you tell me if this is true or false.
All right.
So now there's only 1 Rift Herald, right? Instead of potentially 2?
Fact check says true.
All right, now, is this something? This is something that basically only be accessible for when you have your shit pushed top, and you go do these by yourself as the top laner, or you and your jungler do them together?
This is designed for either solo top laner or for the top lane to work together.
Okay. I guess. And
Because you can go after several of them at a time. There's like 5 or 6 of them that spawn in the pit at the same time.
And then the permanent effects of taking down void grubs, you lose those permanent effects after the Baron spawns.
I don't. Where do you see that? I don't think.
I don't
that's
even
true.
know. I think I just read that somewhere. You keep the potential burn versus structures and the potential to summon void mates the entire game.
I think so.
Because that's some pretty powerful.
It says duration permanent on League Wiki. Yeah.
Well, for a team that could be really dominant with snatching up all 3 sets, what is it? Does that mean there's a total of 9 or 12 void grubs that can potentially spawn?
Yeah, I think there's 6 in the pit at any given time, and then each one will respawn up to once a few minutes after it dies.
So what's the most amount of void grubs that can spawn if you and your jungler happen to be very dominant and on top of it?
I believe 12.
Okay, so you can get 12 stacks of Touch of the Void, which then translate to 12 of Hunger of the Void?
No, I think you just get so when I'm mousing over Hunger of the Void, it says gain 1 stack of this buff for each stack beyond the 4th, 1 at 5 and 2 at 6. So I think
it's just called Touch of the Void at 4 stacks, and then after that, it's just called Hunger of the Void for 5 to 12.
No, I believe what they're saying is that you can get a maximum of 6 stacks, even if you kill all 12 void grubs.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's what they're saying. So basically, yeah, when you're attacking towers with 5 or more stacks, you spawn void grubs to attack it as well, giving you an even bigger advantage against towers. And I think that the most you can ever have is 2 spawning at a time.
Well,
when you're attacking towers.
And that's something everybody on the team can do?
Yeah.
So you can have 5 people that each have 5 or 6 stacks of this, and each of you can summon 2 void mites at the same time?
If I had to guess, they probably have a cooldown on each tower. So that 4 people are attacking the same tower, only 1. I know that's just what I'm guessing they're doing. Based on the way they've described the goal for it. I think this is supposed to be more of a split pushing tool, but at least the whole team can use it in a siege.
Well, I gotta be honest. This seems like
it's overpowered.
It seems a bit unhealthy to interact or to keep something this long term in the game that provides this big of a benefit over the long term. I
think you should have to refresh the stack every 5 minutes or it disappears.
Maybe you keep your stack count, but you have to reactivate it or something like that. Yeah.
Maybe something like that. Yeah. And then once the void grubs are gone, then several minutes after that, you won't ever be able to use it again. I think that would be a good way to do it.
I like the idea of giving the. I'm not looking forward to the river shenanigans because something like this is always going to introduce more river shenanigans, and just the existence of the Rift Scuttler already created enough stupidity where the mid laner, the top laner are constantly pulled into the river to deal with the inevitable junglers having to compulsively 1v1 each other.
Oh my god, they do.
That is like the worst fucking feeling when you're mid. You're just like, well, I guess I'm screwed because I'm playing the thing that happens to have less split push, so I get to go fucking listen to my jungler bitch at me.
Your jungler is fucking ranting at you for 16 minutes after that.
Like, why didn't you help me when I compulsively 1v1 my counterpart?
Oh my god!
I know.
I know we were both at 15% health, but we could have won that.
It's the fucking worst thing about mid lane is the river shenanigans. It's the worst thing.
The worst thing about this game is the jungle role. The existence of the jungle role is the problem in League of Legends.
I don't think that's true. It's just the way that it's played is
all evil.
People just don't try to be net positive because they try to make so many things. They try to force so many things and make so many potentially negative plays.
Yeah.
And people are so obsessed with trying to counter jungle that they just get all butthurt every time they try to do it. Like probably every single game they do it, and then they just get all butthurt because their teammates couldn't run all the way to the enemy jungler before their counterparts could run to their own jungle.
I usually dodge if there's a Kindred on my team.
All right, so In summary, I like the idea of this. What I would have wanted to see instead of this team-wide thing is if this could have just been like some kind of, camaraderie decision between a top layer and the jungler, and you guys kind of decided who got all of the stacks by like deciding who last hits each of the void grub. I do like the idea of something that's kind of a drive-by thing for you to do when you're pushing up your lane. At the
Right,
same
that's
time, though, I feel like it's not probably good to also not only reward someone for pushing their balls off into the tower constantly, but then also giving them another way of making money when they're not even in lane. That I feel like is probably, in fact, the whole idea of this is probably too good.
I think it's just too strong. I think towers need to last longer in this game, and they did give towers a little bit more of a health, as we'll get to later. But yeah, I mean, compared against the touch of the void stacks,
Yeah, if it was up to me, I think I would just double the health
I think
of
this patch
all the
is an
turrets.
accidental net nerf to towers.
I would double the health of every lane turret and then triple the health of the inhibitor turrets.
Um,
That's what I
I
would.
don't know if we need to do that with the inhibitor turrets, not the Nexus turrets. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think they need to like triple the health of the Nexus, honestly.
Oh no, no, the
One,
Nexus, they should like increase the health on it by like 10 times or something. Cuz it
that's
should
a
just
little.
be a done deal. If you can close the game out, you'll kill it super fast. And look how fast it
Yeah,
dies now. It dies like instantly. So I think if you have the closer, it wouldn't matter how much health it really had. I think
right.
it's way too
Yeah,
squishy.
if the other team is able to fight in their base, they should be given the chance to fight you. You shouldn't be able to close it out in 4 hits. I agree
Yeah.
completely. Yeah.
I'd also be okay with bringing back some light shenanigans with the Nexus turrets. You remember when they used to have like different attacks off and on for like a few years?
Oh yeah. There was that one time where the inhibitor Nexus turrets would fire like a constant laser instead of like quantumized beams.
Yeah, I don't know if they go back to that specifically, but I definitely think that they should.
Really fun if the Nexus turrets, like if both of them were up, they would join together and fire like a almost like when Baron has a lot of like little circles that it fires down, and you have to avoid those.
Maybe they should just put a artillery tower in between the Nexus and the fountain, the third one.
Like actually have something that like that you can dodge while you're under the towers. Add some skill to it, but also like just add a little bit of texture to the fights that are under them.
Honestly, I think all towers should take like half damage if there's only like one enemy around too.
Um, yeah, you don't want to pushing too far out, but it isn't too good of a place now. Um,
It's the worst thing in the game.
I think that the longer you're under a tower, the more resistances it should get. Like you shouldn't be able to just basically like stand under a tower and keep whacking it. It should be something you should have to go after a few different times.
I think they should do everything they should possibly do to encourage team fighting and team play
Uh-huh.
and reduce split pushing.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say that I think season 4 was, the best set of changes they ever made to League, and that was a super team fight meta.
Good. All right, that's enough with Void Grub. Time will tell. These days, I'm playing mostly top and 80 carry, so I'm definitely going to be in on the get my shit pushed in and then go watch my opponent and jungler take all the Void Grubs and listen to my jungler get mad at me. They took all the Void Grubs!
I don't know, like, aren't we taking the Void Grubs?
Why don't you have better wave clear on Shen? Ah!
You
know, something like
2.5% on every hit. Why don't you have 3 Sunfire Capes?
All right, next up we've got the terrain changes. These are a bit difficult to visualize just staring at the text that we have on the screen here, but it wasn't the most insane changes they made. Basically, they just got rid of some long-standing 14-year-old things that were in the game, nothing huge.
Yeah, I guess if I were to give you the really quick summary of both the changes and the intention, top lane is made to be more isolated. Particularly, red side is going to be harder for the jungler to gank now. Going to be harder for the blue jungler to gank.
Harder
Mid
or
lane,
just as hard as the other one now that it's easier?
They're both going to be harder to gank. Not necessarily. Red will not necessarily be harder than blue. But both of them will be harder to gank, and red gets a bigger jump from these changes because it was behind before. Mid lane, easier to see junglers coming. Brushes have been pushed back so you get more visibility if a jungler comes from the middle. Harder for jungler to gank on both sides. Easier for mages to get out of. A little bit easier for mid laners to roam to other lanes as well. Bot lane, easier to gank, especially red side is a little bit easier for the blue jungler to gank. The bush configuration was also changed a bunch in the river so that it's a little bit more symmetrical. There is some change with getting to Drakes, and I forget exactly what that is. I think because they got rid of a little bit of terrain, it should probably be a little bit easier for both sides to kind of move in safely to a Drake fight. That's my assumption, but I'm not totally sure on the Drake thing. So yeah, red top side more isolated, mid easier roams and harder to gank. Bot side a little bit easier to gank, so expect a bunch of 3-man, maybe even 4-man parties bot.
I've seen like pictures of all these changes, and the
Mhm.
top lane looks like the biggest change. That being said, I'm not sure I like what they did, because playing like a shitload of top lane the last several years, it already kind of feels like the game is just out of your hands for the most part, because you're always stuck babysitting your top laner. Because if you shit on him, then he's like a feeder and doesn't care if he dies split pushing 25 times. And if he shits on you, then he has a mandate to just never leave top and split push the entire rest of the game. So no matter what, no matter what the scenario is, you're basically just stuck top, babysitting your counterpart because they don't give a fuck and they never do. And that's just how top lane is played.
So this is actually what they're trying to lean into, I think. Not all league players have the same like mentality of team tactics that you and I do, right? There's a lot of people that just want to like Call of Duty 1v1 me, bro.
There's not a lot of
And
people. That's literally 99% of people you lane up against top are.
yeah, and so like and so they're giving those Call of Duty players their lane. And then the 4 people on the map that actually care about a team game can play that together, I guess.
This sounds like it'll just make the meta top even worse. And I said like a few patches ago when we were talking about whatever that change was that'll make split pushing worse.
Uh-huh.
Like I constantly kept saying it can't get any worse. It's the worst.
They did nerf Hullbreaker at least.
That is true. They did nerf that. I don't think that fixes maybe like 5% of it, but I don't really think it fixed anything. It'll just give them one less of an annoying tool to leverage already being annoying. They're still going to do everything they can to try to be annoying.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The one thing I see about this is I feel like they've just given top laners more of an incentive to just never group up, because not only are you just going to push your lane in 24/7 like people are already doing because that's all they want to do, but now you're incentivized even more to do that because then you can go down and roam and go bag up your void mites or whatever the hell now. So
man, this is you trying to stay positive.
well, I mean, this is where I've played the most the last few years, so this is like the scenario that's really easy for me to imagine right now.
Yeah.
And this is all you deal with is like constant pushing up there.
Look, if you're Shen, you're still going to be able to get to the team fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether I like these specific changes. I think I particularly do like the ones mid. I think this was a good idea.
I don't really think they did much for that, honestly.
I think giving the mid laner a little bit more warning for the ganks is really important for the types of mages that can't help but push a little bit. Especially for the ones that feel like they have to push in fear of this the assassin pushing them in and then roaming. So I think that is nice. What I do like about this in general, and I think something that a lot of live balance teams in other games forget, is that you can change the game balance not only by the numbers, not only by the game systems or the items, but you can also actually just change the layout of a map to completely change how champions interact with one another. And I'm glad that after trying that out and making some good changes back in like seasons like 6, 7, 8, somewhere around there, that they're coming back and using that tool again to try and fix some of the balance problems in the game, the class-wide, not just champion-wide balance problems, by adjusting the terrain a little bit. I think that's very intelligent, and it shows that they're at least thinking about the right tools to use, even if they might be misapplying some of them.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how it works out, but I'm not optimistic, to say the least. It's just culture. It's just cultural. It's not really game mechanics forcing you into some direction. It's just the culture. It's people watch all these streamers and all they do is just push nonstop and feed. So then they're like, "Well, I guess that's the way."
I have a feeling in like 3 or 4 months we're going to be so used to this that if they brought the old Rift back, we'd be like, "What the hell is this?"
I think it wouldn't really change anything because it's just cultural. This pressure meta is what I call it, where but all people want to do is just push as hard as they can, and they want to like get ganked over and over because in their mind, if I get ganked 12 times, that means I do good because that means I'm absorbing pressure by dying or something like that.
That's the trade-off. That can be a good thing, or it can be a bad thing if you keep dying.
Yeah, that's what goes on in there. That's the
If you
calculation.
absorb a lot of pressure and you only die once or twice, you're doing great. Like you're doing a lot of work for your team, and you know your jungler is probably too stupid to make use of that pressure
Yeah,
because he's your jungler, of course.
how many like
But
hundreds of games have you played where your top laner died like 5 times in like 5 minutes though?
I know
A bunch
at
of
least
times.
500.
A bunch of times. It's not like they
Yeah,
died once and they're like, "Whoa, I guess it's one of those games. I should play conservative now." Fuck no. They're like,
and,
"Nope, I got to 1v1 my way back into this."
yeah. It's like you look up, you know, it's like you know, there's 0 and 8, there's 0 and 9, there's 0 and 10, and you're not saying anything, and then you look up and they die the 11th time, and they are literally like you know 300 units from the opponent turret. It's like, what the hell are you doing there? You're not 10-0, you're 0 and 10.
See, that's the point. That was my point earlier. Once they start feeding, which they do the first 5 minutes, then they have a mandate of, well, it doesn't matter. I'm so far behind now. Now I got to basically feed my way back into the game, which isn't a thing.
Well, you know, you know, your case is based on the existence of a lot of dumbasses in League of Legends, of which there are. But I think that the pressure matter, right? And the idea of pushing, forcing the enemy jungler to gank you, basically opening up more of the jungle and the map in general, for your team to get vision and to counter jungle. Like that's all real. That's all a thing. And if you can do that, if you can put pressure on the opponent, not let them recall much, force the jungler to gank you, and only die twice in 20 minutes, even if you don't get any kills, you're probably doing a lot of good for your team, and that's something that a lot of players don't realize.
All right, let's move on because I'm sure we'll get back to complaining about split pushing soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up we've got the Infernal Dragon, which I guess doesn't give adaptive stats anymore, or is this just the new thing?
This is a change to the map. The stacks of the dragon still do the same exact thing.
Okay, so now we get these little things that show up on the map like Bard's Charm, and these are permanent too now?
Um. Oh. I think. I think they are
Indefinitely.
permanent, but you only get to hold 5 of them. If you die. So that's 1.5 ability haste is what it's worth once you die.
Hmm.
1.5 ability haste, which is, as you know, absolutely nothing.
Well, I better be fucking moving like a goddamn jackrabbit when I'm playing Shen if those shit start dropping, right?
Yeah, but if you have like 40 or 50 of these that you can hold, because I don't think that there's a max to how many you can stack. And I don't know exactly how many you're gonna have in a game, but yeah, if you can basically like you know go Mage Eyes with this and everybody else dies, and you pick up their little orbs, and you never die. I don't know. This might be worth like 15, 20 extra ability haste, which is nice.
Wait. You can only hold 5
Without
without
dropping.
losing any for dying. That's literally only 1.5 ability haste.
That's what I just said.
Okay, should at least be able to pick up like 10 ability hastes worth.
But wait a minute. If you have like 25 stacks, and you die, you lose, I think, 10 stacks. So you get to keep 15 actually, and then if you die again, you lose another 5 stacks. So you have 10. If you die again, you would lose 2 or 3 stacks. It's actually not that bad. Just think of it like just think of this as a mini Magi
And
for ability haste.
there's no cap on how many of these you can pick up, right?
Yeah, the cap is the number that spawn in the game in theory.
Well, how often do they spawn?
They spawn in groups of 2 to 4 that last indefinitely. It doesn't say how often they spawn.
Well, until we get a number on that, it's hard to put a balance thing on this. But
Yeah.
if they just spawned at like the 15, 20-minute mark and then they spawn infinitely for the next 20 minutes, that'd be pretty cool.
My guess is they're probably, hoping that like a player who's managing these well might have 10 ability haste, so that you might have like 30 stacks in a given time.
Another important thing is, do these show up inside the Fog of War? Because that would definitely create some tension around certain people that are already sitting on like 20 or 30 of these.
I don't think that they do.
Wow, that's kind of dumb, because I feel like that would kind of alter the gameplay a bit if, say one person had the understanding that, like, all right, boys, I'm getting all the infernal things these games, and everyone else was like, okay, you're one of those champs that'd probably be good on. We'll let you get all the infernamajigs.
We'll give more. And remember, this only happens after like maybe after the second Drake is taken. So
Okay, that's still a lot of potential time.
At this point, you should have right. There's a lot of potential time, but what I'm saying is, at that point, you have your sight stone. The trinkets, have lower cooldowns. You should have a lot of vision around the map by that point. So you can still do a lot of those shenanigans if you want to make the effort to do them.
Well, they should make these little red little flame symbols on your mini map inside the Fog of War, like Baird's charms. You can see into the Fog of War.
And then are they just going to stay there until you actually reveal that the opponent already took it?
Well, it says they time out after 30 seconds.
That's if it's dropped after someone was killed. That's if it's dropped after someone was killed.
Those should show up too.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if it shows up in the Fog of War and the opponent takes it, are they actually going to take it off the map, and then you know that your opponent was there?
No, it should stay until you confirm that it's gone, because then, yeah.
Either way, I don't think that's how it works. I think that it's you gotta reveal it in the Fog of War. I don't know. It's interesting, I guess. It's definitely gonna make Fire Trade games a little more snowbally than the rest.
I'm going to pursue these so hard.
I'm probably just not gonna care about them very much.
Gotta get me that ability haste.
They give you that ability haste until you die once, and then it gives it to your opponent. Like, you drop it, and your opponent gets all those stacks that you worked so hard to pick up, or at least half of them.
I'm cool with that, because I don't tend to die, like, very many times.
No, you just let the rest of your team die.
No, I'm very good about knowing when I should be helping and when I shouldn't.
And you're humble, too. Alright, we still have 3 hours of items to get to. Let's move on.
Alright. We got the turrets. We got 1,000 more health. Then we got 200 more health. And 300 more health.
Yep. Backdoor bonus is I don't think that the way it's written here is correct. What they meant to say was that I believe that the true damage reduction, which was 100% against turrets on the backdoor, has been changed to 80% from 100, and the general backdoor bonus has been changed from 66 to 80. I believe, at least according to the official patch notes, which were busted in some ways, but they gave some background, so I believe that part was correct. Really important there is that means that instead of 1/3 damage to turrets while you don't have minions there, they're now taking 1/5. So it takes 5 times as long to take down the turret without any type of minion or other, wave for the turret to shoot at, instead of 3 times as long. That's really significant, even though 66 to 80 doesn't sound like it's much.
Well, I'm sure this is a good change, these 4 things, but I'm sure it also doesn't go far enough.
I completely agree with that, yeah.
Alright, next up we've got some changes to the ancient-ass blue and red buffs, and since they made it more exciting, that means it has to be worse than everybody, or worse for everyone now.
Uh-huh.
So
when everybody's special, no one's special.
Exactly. So now everyone gets a measly 10 ability haste, and then less health regen. I'm going to assume this still gives true damage on hit and mana regen, even though it doesn't say it here.
Yeah, I think so.
And then the super form of these will just give the buff to everyone. But now you're not really going to feel it as much since they nerfed it into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, the red 3% maximum health is still good, and of course the true damage. I think the red buff is still really good to have on everyone. The blue buff, meh. 20 ability haste was kind of nice. 10 is really nothing in the late game, where you're going to see it on everyone.
Well, if they were smart, they would just make the primary person who got it get like 3 times as the bigger buff.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the better way to make like the red and blue buffs into these mini objectives would have been to just make it give like a really nice little buff to one person. These things don't last long in the first place.
I'm old enough to remember there was a time where your mid laner would just rage quit if you didn't give him a blue buff. Now the idea of like mana and ability haste is so like Dollar General common that no one even gives a shit anymore.
Yeah, like sometimes the jungler is like pinging their mid laner, come get the blue buff, and the mid laner is like, nah, I'd rather take 1 turret plate, thanks.
Alright, that does it for the meaningless changes. Now, let's go on to some more damning changes onto the items.
Those were game changes!
Alright. There is some very cool, interesting things here, I will admit. And then there's some very head-scratching, very upsetting things that you're going to hear me talk about more. First off, the mythics are out, and with them, a lot of cool items that did not, in my opinion, get replacements, and thus have left a bit of a vacuum in certain areas in the game. And for the biggest ones, I think this is Divine Sunderer, Gore Drinker, Gale Force, and probably Duskblade, since so many people are reliant on being a sneaky devil.
On the wing.
And then also for legendary items, Gargoyle Stoneplate and Demonic Embrace. While there was something that was added that's kind of like Demonic Embrace, I do feel that these 5 or 6 items definitely got the shit end of the stick. And there really isn't substitutes for a lot of these that they added with the new items. And I always say this like every time, I wish they would just stop removing items from the game, because a lot of the new items they added I like, and those could have existed alongside a lot of the items that they got rid of if they would have just demoted them back to legendary items. Like what is Nasus supposed to build now? He built like Divine Sunderer every game. What is like Nasus and Camille? I mean, I guess they go back to Trinity Force, right? But they wanted that like sustain sheen item basically, and now that like doesn't exist anymore. And Gore Drinker, I mean, there's nothing now that does what Gore Drinker used to do, basically. Gale Force is probably the biggest one. There are so many 80 carries that would opt into taking that because it was mobility. There was nothing that replaced that.
In memoriam to Divine Sunderer, Gore Drinker, Gale Force, Prowler's Claw. I don't remember when that was really popular. Duskblade of Drakthar. 2019 to 2023, you will be missed.
I feel like these were a lot of very stupid changes. I don't know why they got rid of Gargoyle Stoneplate. It was a cool, like, one-off item that gave you a big shield based on your health.
That was a weird one to lose. That was a weird one to lose. But as far as most of them, let me make the argument for that. we're getting rid of mythic items that are supposed to be like a huge amount of the champion's power budget. And some of the things that those mythics did, right? You're talking about things like Divine Sunder and Gore Drinker that gave a lot of sustain to champions who are not designed to have sustain. We're talking about Gale Force, which gave mobility to ADCs that are not supposed to have mobility. We're talking about things that completely changed the game rules, like making you untargetable. Those were very cool things. I agree 100%. But they were things that essentially covered for a champion's entire weakness in some cases. And without having an item that is supposed to be much more powerful than the other item, they would need to give those items such shitty stats to make them fair to use on certain champions. And I'd actually be okay with that. I wouldn't mind having some items that just have a passive or active ability and no stats. That's a way that I wouldn't mind seeing them start designing the item system in the game. But if they're not going to do that, what?
That'd have to be one hell of an active to not have any stats on it.
Yeah, I think that being able to go untargetable for a couple seconds would probably be worth 3,000 gold. But or even like a better version of the Gale Force dash would be worth thousands of gold by itself. Since we're getting rid of the mythic items that are that did cause a lot of problems in the game, I think you agreed that mythics were not so good. There are certain abilities on those mythics that were so game changing, even though they didn't look that powerful. I think like Divine Sunder is a good example, and I think Gale Force is a good example. I think a couple of those assassin items also good examples. That you have to lose those if you're going to rebalance the item system without having some that are intentionally more powerful than others. It would be kind of interesting if instead of making those mythics though, they made those like really premium, like 6,000 or 7,000 gold items for the people that already had 6 items and got really fed at the end of the game. We're gonna add something really cool you can do for the end game.
Well, would they have way more stats than they did as mythics?
I would say they would have the same. I would say no. They'd basically just be the mythics. Like that, they would be things you would intentionally not buy. Or sorry, they would be things that would not be good buys as your first, second, or even fourth buy. Right? They would just be a little bit better than the other items for the fact that they have some type of like game-changing ability. But they'd cost 5, 6, 7,000 gold, so you would only use those once you've already filled up your inventory, and then you can sell your, your stone plate and buy a Divine Sunder. Or whatever. Maybe that's not what you'd sell, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know, man. See, in my opinion, I like a champion that has lots of build options.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate it when they add stuff to the game while
Well,
simultaneously
they've actually
taking away stuff
accomplished that
to the
to
game.
some degree. They've actually accomplished that to some degree, systemically here. I think. I mean, we'll see. I understand that they've gotten rid of as many items as they've added. But I think that they actually have opened up a lot more ability to make a choice rather than to slavishly go into your first 4 items are all decided for you. Because you have to buy this mythic on this champion, and this mythic synergizes with these other, 3 core items. Therefore, you have to buy all of those. And this isn't even really what a champion was designed to do, but they're in this class, and this class uses this mythic because it's so much better than the other mythics for this class. So now all the champions in this class have to buy these 4 items to start. You got that a lot with like the things that synergize with Kraken Slayer, for instance. You got that even with the fighters having to build, Duskblade, strangely, and then go into all the lethality items. You had some really, really weird shit going on in Season 13. I think they've actually managed to correct some of it. And I think systemically they'll make it easier to correct going forward. Let me ask you this as far as the item I was the most curious to see removed. Stopwatch. What do you think of that one?
Well, we'll see that there was a big buff to Hourglass, so the fact that they removed Stopwatch is kind of inconsequential. You can still
It's
rush Hourglass
inconsequential
if
for
you
somebody
want
who
to.
uses Hourglass, but for all the people who were, using that as a one-time fight changer, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I would have preferred it remained an option just
Uh-huh.
for that like one-time outplay, but
Yeah,
League
I
just
was kind of
hates
sad to see that one
interesting
go.
things, you know.
And
League doesn't
one
want you making League doesn't want you to choose because you might choose the wrong thing.
I'm not sad to see Radiant Virtue go.
I mean, it's not like it was overpowered.
Honestly, though, I'm really happy to see Divine Sunder and honestly Gourd Drinker go. And yeah, it does leave some top laners without an item go to for sustain. I guess we can talk about that more in the fighter items. I forget
It wasn't just about
whether
sustain, it was particularly champions that are really good with Sheen items. So basically, your only choice is, well, I'll just go balls to the walls and go get the most damage now. So they're all just going to build Trinity Force, probably.
still a gauntlet, right?
You can get that, but it doesn't do as much damage as Trinity Force, and it doesn't have any sustain, so there's not much point.
Right. But if your champ isn't designed to do a lot of damage, and you're not building, things like a lot of, AD or AP, you shouldn't be able to do a lot of damage. There was way too much free damage coming from items, from things like Heartsteel, from things like Sunder, um, certainly from things like, Kraken Slayer and Gwynsus, which they fixed one of them, I suppose,
I can tell
somewhat.
you what, man, if they took Heartsteel out of the game, I think I would have had a heart attack.
They would have stolen your heart.
Because there's some
Um,
things in this game, they took out some things that have only been in the game for like a matter of months. I mean,
there was too much free damage from items. I think they did an awful job with items in season 13. I made no illusion about my opinion there. And I'm glad to see them pull some of it back. And even if this is not perfect, to go forward with a smarter paradigm like they had in the past. Good riddance to season 13's items. Good riddance to the design of the designers who made those. And yeah, good riddance to them. Glad to see some of them out of the game.
so let me guess, you're happy that all of these items are gone.
No, I'm not. I think some of them certainly could have been reworked into something better.
But which
But
one of these items
mhm.
would you want to stay in the game?
um, pretty much everything except Everfrost, Divine Sunder, um, and
What's wrong with
Prowler's.
Everfrost?
Everfrost is just first of all, it's a really weird way to create CC. It gives CC to champs that shouldn't have it. It's almost undodgeable. Um, and it's just a weird thing compared to most of the other things that mages should have. It also has a weird stat line. It's just not a cool item. I never liked its presence in the game at all. I especially didn't like it back when Glacial Augment only worked on the things that the items did. But even once they got rid of that stupid interaction, I never liked Everfrost in the game. I never liked using it. I never liked going against it.
I liked it because it was like kind of a mid-range bruiser-esque mage kind of thing because it had health, but it didn't have any magic pen on it, like Protobelt or Ludens did. I
You know
liked
what?
that.
If your champion's kit isn't designed to have CC, it's designed to be able to work without CC. You don't need to be able to just use an item and somebody can't move. Okay, leave that to Morgana.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good argument because you buy items to make up for what your champion lacks.
Usually, you
You
buy
know,
items to increase your champ's power and delve further into your champion's power fantasy. It's your reward for early skill expression or outplays. It's your reward that you have more items that can boost what your champ does. It doesn't make you an all-seeing, all-doing, juggernaut that has no weakness. And you should really have to sacrifice a lot of power to cover a weakness like that. It should be available, but things like Everfrost did that without covering any weakness. It was just cheesy for TF to show up and Everfrost you and then gold card you, or even do that in the other order. Yeah,
Yeah,
good riddance.
I don't really think the effect. I mean, the effect got nerfed a couple times. I don't think it was ever so strong that it was like too good. I think it was just something fun that was in the game. Just like the Crown of the Shattered Queen, which a lot of people didn't even buy that often, but I liked that, and it didn't even make the cut either.
Well, in fairness, right, one of the support quest finishers is a Crown of the Shattered Queen. Just
Yeah.
like a Turbo Chem Tank, as much as I thought that was a cool item, they essentially reworked that into an even cooler version of the item. I forget at the second what it's called, but it's the one that leaves the trail behind you.
Yeah, and our mid lane mage is going to want to build those lame ass items that are weak.
No, of course they're not going to want to build a Turbo Chem Tank.
Or they're not going to want to build that support item that's similar to the Crown of the Shattered Queen passive either.
Well, no, they can. It's a support item.
Well, okay, well, then there's a hole where there used to be something cool that they could get instead of Ludens or whatever the hell.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair argument, but they do have much better defensive itemization for mages now, which was seriously missing in the last like 5 or 6 years. Basically, ever since they made Guardian Angel an armor only item, and I think they had changed a couple other items with it.
I'm,
Yeah,
I'm not sure
like
what you're talking about because I've been over these items a number of times, and it's
hmm?
basically just a bunch of damage stuff, you know?
No, the
I mean, they made Hourglass way stronger. That was already in the game.
mages have better defensive itemization. You'll see a lot of stuff with more armor and magic resist for them. We'll go through it as we hit the individual items.
All right, let's go down. We'll start with, I don't know. There's so many damn changes here. Kind of hesitant to talk about all of them. A lot of this is just dumb garbage. I'll just skip to whatever I think's
We
interesting.
can just we can just speed through and just like say what the change is for the things that are like just a small like stat change.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about the basic items like Amptome and Aether Wisp. I want to talk about
We can
legendary
take
items
Aetherless
or
as
mythic
movement
items
speed
that
now.
became legendary items, basically.
Okay, fine. Let's do that then.
First things first, we can talk about Archangels. Doesn't have health anymore. That's kind of significant because it had health for kind of a while, and it actually almost felt like it should have been an item that had health this whole time. Now it doesn't give health no more. What do you feel about that?
Still gives you a big shield. I like this one. I think it's fine. I don't like love it, but I think it's fine. You can charge the tier quicker, and it gives you more ability, more mana, and gives you ability haste, which is probably what you want more than health when you're actually building like a tier item. I understand that there's a lot of battle mages that build this and want the health, but this opens it up to people that are not battle mages and are just going to be like spell spammers.
Well, can
Yeah, I
you
like this.
tell me ahead of time? Was there any of these item changes you didn't like?
Yes,
Okay, well, at least I know that.
keep going.
All right, that one's kind of the same. Let's see. Let's go down to Banshee's Veil, which got a huge boost of AP. That was definitely not there the first time I read these changes. This gives now the same AP as Hourglass, which they both give 120 now. They both lost their ability haste, go figure, but now they have less cooldown on the only reason you actually buy this item, which is cool. With a 120 item, I can actually feel good about buying Hourglass and Banshees, whereas before, I would just be like, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with a defensive item. If I end up dying, it's my own fault. I'm just going to build more Magic Pen, because what's the point? Because these items were statted so poorly before.
Yeah, so at 3,100 gold instead of 2,600, and the stats that they give you are more than worth it. Don't get me wrong. This is something that you actually have to build towards and probably invest in, keeping it in mind from the time that you're building the first item. This is not something you're going to be able to pick up easily as a fourth or fifth item when the game is already going bad, and it's because you're getting, you're getting hit by like a one-note engage, like a Blitzcrank hook, or or a I don't know, maybe like a Senna grab. I don't know. I I'm just like blanking on some of the one-known engages. Maybe like a Darius pull, right? If you're being blown up starting with some type of one-known engage, Banshee's Veil in the past was a good fourth or fifth buy to just say, okay, let me protect myself against this. With these stats and with this amount of gold that it costs, you really need to say early in the game, I plan to build a Banshee's Veil at some point this game. And yeah, it's a good item now. It's a good item at 120 AP and 50 magic resist and ability haste it gives you. This is nice. I do want to at least quickly mention Ardent Sensor, which you skipped. They improved the stats by a lot on this, and they improved the on hit and the attack speed bonus for your partner. It was in a pretty weak spot. I think it was in like a much stronger spot at the beginning of season 13 when we had the Doom builds, and you could get, I think it was 30 magic damage on hit, but even at 20, compared to what they did with Staff of Flowing Water, Ardent is very, very good buy right now. Okay.
All right. On to something more important. We got some breaking news. Bill Belichick is no longer the head coach of the Patriots.
Yeah, I saw that breaking a little earlier this morning. Look, it was a really good run. It was a really good run.
Also,
some people.
The hell with Ardent Sensor. Next up, we've got. Let's see. Okay, the first of the new ones, we're going to talk about Bloodsong.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what they did. Basically, everyone starts off with the same damn gold item now, and then you upgrade it twice, and then when it gets to tier 3, you can freely swap it out with basically 5 different legendary items. And I gotta be honest, I think I'm pretty much okay with this. All 5 of the items actually have identical stats, and they have a different ability for each one. Not sure they all should have had the same exact stat line. That's kind of weird because now there isn't one that gives AP or AD or whatever.
And that's the point.
Okay, well, I do like the effects that they have, though.
Yeah, I actually thought the effects would be a little bit more exciting, but I think they're fine. I really like this this direction as a whole. Instead of being forced into a specific thing that you have to do for your support item by the fact that there's certain stats on the item, now they give stats that are useful to all champions except possibly Soraka, with the health regen and mana regen.
Well, in 6 months they'll just be saying about how it was a mistake of us to force all supports to buy items to have the same stats, and then we'll just have new support items again. So it's really what the hell and pointless.
I don't know. I think this
they change these every fucking year, man.
They might rework 1 or 2 of the final forms that are not accomplishing their goals. But I think that this is a really good idea. Also worth pointing out with the support items, you can now either kill minions or attack enemies or turrets to get the gold for them. You don't need to choose one or the other.
Yep.
There's no more orbs. You basically just get like the standard value of the, you get 20 gold for killing a minion, and when you're near another champion, and the other champion that you're near gets the regular value of that minion. Now, I don't think that you have executes anymore. I think that's the one thing that's really bad with the support items. It's going to be really hard to trust a Milio, for example. I'm trying to think of champs that aren't going to be able to proc the attacking enemies very much. It's going to be hard to trust maybe like a Braum to be able to last hit a bunch of minions if they don't have an execute on their support item. And I don't think that it has an execute anymore.
Well, now that they just get the same amount of gold, now there's no incentive for them to get the cannon minion, so God forbid they actually have to last hit a melee minion.
Yeah, so they can just go for a melee minion or a ranged minion, and you don't have to fight with your support for that minion. It was so frustrating, like in the mid game, like roaming, making a good roam, and then the person who I helped would just one shot a cannon minion as I was about to execute it for them. I'm glad that's gone, That I'm glad that the orbs are gone, and yeah, I think it's very cool that you can go either or for how you generate gold with any champion in the game as a support now. I think it will help some of the more passive enchanter type supports that don't poke very much. Some of them do poke a lot, some of them don't. I think it'll help some of the tank supports that were really getting poked a lot as they went for minions. And I think it may even open up more cheese shenanigans for different types of champs to play bot line that you might not have expected. I think
Yeah,
this is all fine.
I like the direction they went with this.
Yeah, me too.
Except I'd be more optimistic. I just know they're just going to scrap it all and replace it with different shit next year. So it's really only so much optimism it's worth even investing in.
Yep. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the Blood Song ability. This is basically like a mini Spellblade. It only works on your base AD, which means that items don't count, right?
Yeah, this is the item that makes up for them taking out Even Shroud, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you proc the Spellblade and you get I don't know, probably about 90 bonus damage on hit with your auto attack. And then you get the Even Shroud effect, which honestly is a much better effect than the Even Shroud. Even Shroud had been reduced to 7%. This is 12% more for 6 seconds every time you proc Spellblade.
Yeah, maybe you should just take press the attack also.
This is actually like this is strong. This is definitely gonna be like Leona's go-to item.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's another really good tank one though too.
Yeah, and that's part of what's nice about the fact that they all have the same stats, right? It's not like this had like 30 AD and only like 40 bonus health, and then the other one that was more defensive had 200 bonus health and 5 AD. So Leona would have to choose that one every time. Now she can choose this for a more aggressive game, or if she just wants to survive longer in the fight, she can use the mini Shattered Queen as she goes in, and they both have the same stats. That's why I like that approach. And yeah, I think that Blood Song is honestly probably the strongest of the five for a lot of champions.
Alright, the next support option of the 5 you can get is we're going to go down to Celestial Opposition here. This is the one that's kind of like Aftershock, kind of like Crown of the Shattered Queen. I could easily see a Leona taking this also because it's not so much about doing damage with Leona, it's just about taking an insanely good trade and threatening the all-in. So if you take next to no damage, but your counterpart takes a big damage in the trade, it's just as valuable as your enemy AD carrier support taking a lot of extra damage. Because the current health of both the supports kind of dictates the actions that happen in the lane and how free your AD carry is to act.
Now remember that a support may get this before the end of laning phase, but it won't be to. So just to reset, you need to complete your 1,000 gold quest to get these support items that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
And so generally, I think the 1,000 gold is completed somewhere between maybe like I don't know, 18 and 23 minutes most games. It might be a little bit quicker now, since they're giving you a little bit more gold, and you can proc it one of two different ways. I thought it would have been cool if they also like gave you gold for like spotting enemies with wards, or for scoring assists. Those would be other ways that they could have added for the champs that aren't real good at the two ways that they have now. But anyway, yeah, this is like a mini Shattered Queen. Not only does it reduce damage for 2 seconds. And even with the range 25%, that's not that bad. Like, I could see, like, a Sona building this in some games. It also unleashes a shockwave, which slows nearby enemies. So if somebody's on you, this can help you escape. I still think this will probably be the best for melee champions, like a Braum, like a Leona. Probably like a hard engage, like a Nautilus or a Leona more than a Braum.
Yeah, I agree. It probably should be a little faster to finish your support quest. It should be in line with how fast someone can quickly get their first legendary, you know?
Well, they said that they expect this to happen around the time that around the time or a little bit after supports get their like their first like big item. And I agree with you. I think in practice it'll be somewhere like closer to the second item than the first.
Okay.
But yeah, but then again, even though it's happening at like 18 to 23 now that you're getting the 1,000 gold, it's going to be a little bit easier to pump gold now. So maybe you will get this at 14, 15 minutes, and it'll all be good.
Next up, we've got some interesting changes to Cosmic Drive. This thing
Hmm? Oh, I missed
no
this.
went from having no health, lots of ability haste and movement speed, to then having health, and now suddenly, or I know I was bad. It had health and no health, and now it has health again. Whatever.
Yes.
And there was a period of time I actually liked the version that had health, a little less AP, but had like you could get up to like 40 or 50 ability haste in
That
this
was my
item,
favorite version. It was 40.
and
Yeah.
like the big movement speed that was just lasted forever until you were out of combat. Yeah, there was a version of it that was really fun. This one's still okay, I guess. I mean, you do get movement speed, but you have to actually constantly keep doing something. There was a form of it where you just had to stay in combat and you were just a speed demon forever. That one was kind of fun. It'd still be this kind of big ticket ability haste item, but I think is only like 25. I feel like they probably should have made this almost like 30 or 35 or something to keep its kind of identity. Now it
With the
honestly
ability hit?
feels like it
Yeah.
doesn't actually have much of a place in the game because it was either about a ton of movement speed or a ton of ability haste, and now both of those are kind of weaker than they were. So,
Um, I think this will be really good for artillery mages. Like really, really, really good for artillery mages because you only need to damage enemies once, unlike something like unlike a lot of the other I think one of the old cosmic drives forced you to damage them a few times within like I think 3 times within like 2 or 3 seconds. Obviously, the rune which I'm somehow blanking on right now. The rune that the mage rune that you attack 3 times. Oh my god, what is it called? And it gives you the movement speed boost.
what? You talking about Phase Rush?
Yes, phase rush. Thank you. That requires you to attack a few times. Um, I for I think that that the old Rod of Ages, while it didn't per se force you to attack 3 times, you had to basically use several abilities in order to proc the movement speed boost there. This new version of Cosmic Drive will allow you to basically attack someone once from a distance and then get a speed boost, making it easier for you to get away if they're about to close in on you, or if they start to run from your artillery, to make sure that you're continually in within your max range to be able to hit them with abilities. I think this will be really good, especially with still respectable ability power and ability haste for artillery mages. I think it'll still be fine for battle mages. Like getting like a permanent speed boost along with 25 ability haste and some health is nice. Um, I think it's gonna have a few different niches, quite honestly.
Yeah,
I
I think the
I
best
still
people will be
mm-hmm.
like Cassiopeia, Rise, or Swain that do so much periodic damage that it'll just be
Swain's a
up
good one, yeah.
constantly.
Swain really needs the movement speed. I think even more than the other two do. Um, Yeah, I agree with you, and I will say I am really sad because I don't think that there was. I think ability haste is one of the coolest stats in the game. I love being able to stack that over 100 on a lot of different champions. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And it's a little bit sad to me that with this overall like item rework, I don't think that there is a premium ability haste item in the game, especially for people who like to use abilities a lot. Like the best ability haste items in the game now are things like Navori, which which are on ADCs, and I think there was a there's definitely a couple of like assassin ability haste items that get around just having ability haste, but also just reduce the cooldown of things like your ultimate.
Yeah, I
I wish
agree.
there was. Yeah, I
They
wish there
just
was a
yeah,
premium ability haste item for AP users.
they disrupted a lot of builds without really thinking twice about it, and ability haste is definitely a thing that was disrupted. Like for instance,
Yeah,
now like Warmogs and Heartsteel both used to have ability haste on them. That was something I would build on Shen a lot, and now neither of them have ability haste anymore.
yeah, those are mostly for champions that don't really want or need ability haste that badly. I was fine with those losing it, although I do see your point with Shen in particular. I wish that there was kind of like a premium, like 50 or even 60 ability haste item that was a full priced item that that only had maybe like 20, 30 ability power, and some type of passive on it.
They
Something
should
that you
just
buy
make it like
because,
Rabadon's, where you just gain ability haste based on your AP,
or ability haste based on your ability haste.
or that'd be fine too.
Yeah, that would actually be cool, like a capstone ability haste item. I could get
Mm.
behind that very much. That's a great idea, honestly.
I'd I'd buy it on a number of champs, even if it only had like 30 AP on it. And
The
also,
way that
they nerfed the cooldown boots in this patch too.
The way that ability haste works, unlike the old cooldown reduction, is that it is not broken or abusive to stack that to incredibly high levels. It's just a choice that you make. Um, that was one of the smartest moves that they ever made in League of Legends. It took them way too long. Um, but now that they have that lever enabled for them from a design point of view, it's sad to see them not move into being able to specialize in ability haste. So yeah, Cosmic Drive used to be my go-to for that, and now it can't be anymore. But it will still be a good item in the game.
All right, next up, we've got a new item, Crypt Bloom. A lot of these items have
Weird.
goofy names. This is a very weird item. I honestly think the
Yeah.
mages just got so much weird, goofy shit. I'm not really in love with a lot of the stuff they got, to be honest. This one's just, I don't even know who would take this. It is interesting that there is a second thing that you can build instead of Void Staff now. But now that they've added another item that does the same thing as Void Staff, and Void Staff
Yeah.
doesn't even have a passive beyond the Magic Pen, I feel like you'd almost just take this every game now instead of Void Staff, even though Void Staff gives 10% more Magic Pen. The
Uh-huh.
fact that this just has an effect kind of relegates Void Staff to being kind of pointless. Plus, this has ability haste, and Void Staff never
I
had
don't know how
ability
big
haste.
I don't know how big the area is, and that could be a game changer during team fights if it's a large area.
Doesn't even matter if it
Um,
has an effect, and Void Staff doesn't do anything.
Void Staff has a lot more ability power, doesn't it?
Has
Or
like
no?
10 more ability power and 10 more
Huh?
Magic Pen, and that's like
Well,
it.
those stats. I mean, there's a reason people build Yomus, right? People. I mean, like the stick of stats definitely. 10% more Magic Pen really means something. I'm not saying that you're wrong that this is better. I'm not sure because I think that this effect, like if you're dueling, this is pretty useless, right? If you're in a big team fight, it can be good. I'll tell you who I think will use this. Vladimir, Swain, Cassiopeia.
Doesn't say it heals you, though.
It does heal. I believe it does heal you. I think it's you and everyone in the area. You are an allied champion in the area. It's not other allied champions.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I do wonder whether supports will build this. I guess like a
Yeah.
mage support, a Zyra, a Lux, could build this and be useful to their team that way.
That's the only person I see wanting to opt into
Morgana.
this, is like a maid support.
Yeah, I think battle mages 100% want this, right? Like, Vladimir will never not use this, right? He wants all that healing.
I'm not really convinced you would want this on Vladimir.
As crazy as this is, I think Dr. Mundo would actually be pretty good with this.
Yeah, he gets a lot out of no health and no AD.
Right, but he does get something. He gets get a lot out of Magic Pen. All that AD damage he's doing is magic damage. The ability power is not wasted on him, and the ability haste is fine too.
What does he do with ability
Um,
power?
doesn't that enhance his W by a lot?
No.
And no,
He can't even scale this thing because it only scales on half of his AP. You'd be better off just getting sorcerer shoes if you want your Q to hit harder.
I guess, but he also gets a lot out of the healing.
How do you figure?
I mean, I guess he probably won't have that much other AP, so maybe he'll get less than I thought.
He'd only get
But
50. He'd get
well,
50 plus like half of 75, so he'd get like 85.
yeah, I guess that would only be like 100. You're right. I was just thinking because he has a bunch of different ways to enhance his own healing. And this gives him a lot more time to use in the fights. He can proc it easily, but you're right. He wouldn't build a lot of AP.
And you
So,
say
probably.
Vladimir, but as a Vladimir enthusiast, I'm not sure I'd actually want to take this.
Oh
And
no, no, Vladimir needs
a
this.
big reason is
I mean, he doesn't need
because
it, but it's overpowered with him.
if you think so, I don't think so because of this 60-second cooldown it has. If you just killed everyone and then it triggered like multiple times, then
Uh,
it'd probably be good. But on Vladimir, damage is more important, so you're better off just getting the other Void Staff, which has more Magic Pen, than this thing that has some goofy heal that'll go off one time a minute.
I don't know that. I mean, for him, I don't know that damage is more important than 500 extra health in a fight. Maybe you're right. And this does seem like it's positioned in a weird place. Like of all the things that I would put on a magic penetration item to introduce a second choice to the game for an AP magic pen item, having an area of effect heal is not what I would have thought of.
Yeah, this is pretty stupid.
It is a weird choice. I just don't think it'll be broken with Flood.
Maybe if they put like 200 health on this item simultaneously, then I could get behind it with a number of champions like Mordekaiser or something weird.
Yeah, maybe even give it 300 or 400 health and take out all the ability haste. Make it much different than Void Staff.
Then I could get behind it. But the way it stands now, it's just gooftastic. All right. Next up, we've got our interesting one. We have the Dawn Core. This is a support item, 40 AP, 20 haste, and it gives you more heal and shield power and AP for having more mana regen. So you want to stack all of the other garbage items that cost $2,000 to get something out of this. So this is definitely an enchanter item, if ever there was one. It's nice having more haste on your ultimate. That's kind of nice. I don't know what that comes out to. Probably like 20%, 10, 15%.
I don't think it's on your ultimate. It's on your
oh, you're right. My bad. It's even dumber than I thought.
Yeah.
My bad. I thought it was useful.
Yeah, summoner haste on your ultimate would be nice, but I think only the assassins get that.
Heal and shield power is cool and all, but you can basically gain whatever impact it would give you just by building a shitload of AP on
depending
enchanters.
On the champion, yeah. Depending on the champion. Some of them have really good AP ratios on their heals and shields, and some of them have really pathetic ones. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say about the item besides what you just said. Since this heal and shield power bonus does not disable the mana regen like Discord did on Athene's 2 and whatever. It's just worth remembering that the base mana regen by itself is really useful on some of these enchanter supports. So the fact that you're stacking other items that also give it to you not only gives you the extra heal and shield, but also will mean that you're not running out of mana and you don't necessarily need to build a tier or some other max mana item, which is nice. I still don't think this item is going to be real good, especially at a cost of 2,700. Not enough AP. The summoner haste is not that important. And doesn't have any type of like active or really useful passive that it gives you.
Yeah, if they made this like 8 or 10% heal and shield power, then I'd seriously be thinking about it.
Yeah. Even if they got rid of the ability power and made it just about its heal and shield, that might be cool. I don't think this is a terrible item, but it feels to me like it's probably under par.
They also probably should have just put like 10% heal and shield power as its regular lineup too on its stat.
Yeah, it's just trying to do too many different things and not doing any of them really well. Next.
All right, next up, scroll way down to Dreammaker. This is another one of the 5 new support legendaries. And this one is kind of an interesting thing, just from the way it's worded. It has like 2 status effects, and this is another enchanter item. And if you heal and shield one, it gives you 2 buffs simultaneously. I don't know why they couldn't just say it was 1 buff. The way they word this, it almost sounds like there's a way where you can give someone one of these but not both. But all it really does is just give you both at the same time. So
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out too. It seems like it's just like them trying to get like really cute, like with the jungle pets instead of a buff. It's a pet. Look at what it's doing. It's 2 bubbles dancing around each other. Yeah, I'm guessing that the blue and the purple bubbles, are gained at the same exact time, and therefore they have to be given to allies at the same exact time. There's nothing particularly interesting here. This is like the core like enchanter that doesn't need to protect themselves type of support quest item.
the only problem I see with this item is this is definitely one that you would need early in the laning phase for it to be useful. By the time that you would actually get this, these numbers are kind of so low that it would be kind of laughable by the time you get it. Whereas something with a percentage, like the damage reduction or the damage amp on the other 2 we read about, those are going to scale throughout the entire game, basically. Something like this is just going to be hot garbage as soon as you get it.
I'm going to disagree with you there. 140 for a shield and 90 for the next basic attack is kind of reversed, but about in line with what Echoes of Helia was giving when you first got it in the mid game, the early to mid game as an enchanter support.
If this straight up just didn't have a
cooldown, was a great mythic.
If this straight up just didn't have a cooldown, I actually think this would be serviceable given these numbers.
That would be incredibly busted. That you could give them, 140 shield and 90 magic attack on hit, in addition to whatever heal or shield you gave them with your ability, in addition to the Ardent Sensor, every 1 to 2 seconds. Let's say you're like a Karma or a Soraka or a Sona. Like, no.
Well, it takes so long to finish these support items. I think for only once every 8 second a thing, I think this is probably the weakest of all of them.
It's hard to say because, like, this is something that you're giving to someone else rather than something for yourself, so it's hard to say that it's weaker or stronger, right? Like, as a support, generally, buffing an ally is more valuable than buffing yourself. And I really do think that in the mid-game, being able to shield an ally 140 extra damage, I mean, that's like half of a locket every 8 seconds, and giving them bonus damage on hit just as a passive for something that you're already doing is super valuable. I think you're sleeping on it, and I think late game this might be one of the lesser ones, but late game as an enchanter with a fed carry, you are still pretty useful. So I don't know. I think this is fine. I just wish that they had a little more skill expression in terms of how you used the blue and the purple bubbles. You don't get a lot of control over that.
Yup. Next up, we've got the item that's basically Athene's Unholy Grail, except now that it's been dumbed down considerably by being a legendary, it's basically finished its journey to essentially just being a ripoff of that old item. Because now it's just doing exactly what Athene's Unholy Grail did. You damage people, you build up the blood charges, you heal or shield someone, you expend them, and you heal them, just like the old days. So this item's even more uninspired than it was before.
Yeah, I don't like seeing this. I kind of understand it, and I do like that you can build the shards up to 3 instead of 2 now. But the amount, 20 heal per shard and 55 magic damage, I think even through its nerfs last season, in its final form, at least at level 18, you were getting 80 heal for each shard and 160 damage. And this is nerfed to such a state that yeah, it's a cheap item, but I don't see any reason that you're going to want to build this. It just doesn't do enough of anything.
Well,
it just do enough of anything.
If you build it with the Dawn Core, you'll get 3% more heal and shield power.
You know, it would have been kind of cool if you could consume the soul shards to instead of just healing, a fixed amount and dealing damage to the nearest enemy. It would improve your further heal and shielding for like several seconds for each shard that you expended.
Yeah, the numbers on
Maybe,
this are just a bit lacking.
yeah, they're abysmal. What I'm hoping they do is they increase the cost to like 3,000 and they double the numbers.
Yeah, they'll never make a support item that expensive.
Um, You're probably right, but with and one thing I think that the support items actually I think that the support items give you gold per 5 now, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, like even once you complete the quest.
All the quest line ones do. But I think they did that before, though.
No, no, the you didn't get any more gold, I don't think. Once you upgraded to 1,000 gold with the old support
Oh,
items.
hallelujah.
So the fact that you can get more gold further into the games as a support I think is going to open up the space that maybe moving forward they can correct that mistake and create some more expensive, more impressive support items that still won't be poached by other roles. Like I don't think that a better Echoes of Helia is going to be poached by a lot of mid laners or assassins.
Maybe if some of these numbers actually had scaling, it would.
Maybe, but if the main effect that you want is to heal or shield another allied champion to deal, some extra damage to a nearby enemy, and it's an absolute amount that doesn't scale based on your AD or AP, I don't think it's getting poached even at 3,000 gold with better stats.
Think if they made the heal per shard
Huh?
scale with like AP and then the magic damage scale with some AP, this would probably be a lot better even if the base numbers are garbage.
Yeah, but then you're opening up to poaching.
I don't really think it's
You know,
problematic that a mage can make use of a cheap support item. I
uh,
mean, all
that
support mages do is build mid lane mage items, so who the hell cares?
Yeah, I think that poaching is actually except for the ridiculousness that we had with assassins taking fighter items last season. That was just a bad job by the items team, but I think poaching in general is not as big of a problem as they make it out to be. All right. Either way, yeah, Echoes of Helia. I was the biggest fan of it last season. I would say don't buy it now. Just buy the Ardent Sensor instead.
Alright, next up we've got Eclipse. No more lethality. Now we've got more attack damage and a bigger health shred and shield from the effect. Or actually a weaker shield, but more of a health shred. And movement speed.
Yeah, this was to reduce the poaching to assassins or for assassins, where
Now I
assassins
actually
were taking.
not entirely sure who wants this item. I mean, it doesn't give critical strike or attack speed, so that's out for 80 carries, and it doesn't give lethality anymore. So, yeah, there's too many other items that give lethality that do something useful that you'd probably want to take.
This is, I think, a lot of the people that were building Sunder are probably going to want to build this.
I don't know about that, man.
It's not a Sheen item, but I think it's going to be a lot of the same types of champs. I think this was designed for them.
Yeah, but Sheen, you only have to hit them once. This, you gotta hit them twice, and this has like a 4 times longer cooldown than
Oh,
Divine
I agree.
Sunder.
It's a worse item than Sunder was. It's a worse item than the Eclipse was last season. But as far as who's gonna want it, I think it's those type of champs. And
Plus, that gave health too. This thing's just a piece of shit.
yeah, yeah, it does let the Camille's and the Vi's of the world and whatever itemize into a lot of attack damage without being too squishy. I think it's gonna find its niche, but it's probably underpowered right now.
I don't know who would want to buy this.
I could see Camille and Vi buying this for a couple of them. I mean, I'm not a specialist in fighter items, but
If they added the Omnivamp back to this item, then some people would probably want to pick it up again. Graves like buys this a lot, and I don't even think he'd want it anymore. You know.
yeah, I think they've got to improve the shield it gives you probably. I mean, it is a 6-second cooldown, so you can proc it a bunch of times, but yeah, I think if they made the shield last 3 or 4 seconds and maybe improved the numbers, either the base, which is 120, not great, or the bonus AD ratio, which is 35%, again, not great. You know, they could safely give this 50% of your bonus AD to say that, okay, if you have 300 bonus AD, which is like, a dream late game, it's giving you 150 extra shield. That's fine. Yeah, this is gonna be like a good fighter item for the fighters that lean towards AD rather than tankiness. It just needs a little bit better numbers.
The big reason people bought this is because you could combo this thing with Collector and one of the last Whisper items, because this also gave, and Black Cleaver, and this comboed with that because its Mythic Synergy was basically the same thing. Now that it doesn't have a Mythic
It also
Synergy
made
anymore,
assassins really hard to kill.
now that it doesn't have any armor pen anymore, I feel like that's the big reason people were taking it, and the lethality combined. Yeah, this is just probably almost as goofy as the Crypt Bloom thing now.
I think this is in a much more defined place than Crypt Bloom was, or
Well,
than Crypt Bloom is.
I
Like, I
don't
think this
see
has
I
a
don't see
very
any reason
specific.
for a champion to buy this first, and I don't see any reason for a champion to want to buy this after they already have like an 80 carry item or a bruiser item or an assassin item, because you're just going to want to keep getting more of the same thing, and this is basically none of those.
This lets you continue to build lots of attack damage while giving you a little bit of defensiveness. I will stick behind. I think this is I think that like the design of this item is a good heavy AD fighter item. I think that the numbers make it like feasible but not good for those heavy AD fighters and bad for everyone else. But once they bring the numbers up a little bit, I think this will be a popular and strong heavy AD fighter item. That's my call.
Alright, next up, we've got Experimental Hex Plate. We've got a bunch of health, we got some attack damage, and then we have some attack speed that you don't usually see along with health. This gives some haste on your ultimate, and when you use your ultimate, you get the speedies for several seconds. 7 seconds seems pretty generous, I gotta be honest. They'll probably nerf that to like 2 or some crap. So this is pretty nice, I guess. It's a 20 attack speed and then another 35. And then I'm actually not sure who wants this either, because the 300 health sounds cool. I don't know. I could see an assassin actually building this, and I can also see like Darius, I guess, or something building this. I'm not
I was
really
thinking
sure.
like Darius was the only champion that I could see, really wanting this. Yeah, pretty much Darius. Maybe Garen with the way he builds now.
I guess so, because if he gets all that attack speed, he does like another 2 or 3 swings on his E.
Yeah, and his ultimate cooldown's pretty low at the at max rank. He could actually use it twice in a fight and surprise people.
There you go. Now it's a Garen item, and that's
This
basically it.
this is weird. Yeah, this one's weird. I don't see what they were trying to do with this one, and yeah, quite honestly, I don't like this one. Like, if you're gonna give an ultimate haste item, like give it some AP, man. Why are you giving it health and attack damage? That's weird. Why do fighters need to have like not only more ultimates, but to use the ultimate as a tool to then unlock movement speed? It's weird. This one I don't like.
Okay, next up, we've got Force of Nature. We've got a little less MR, and then we still get the movement speed, except now when this item activates, you get a shitload of MR. for a total of like 125 or something. This is pretty crazy, I gotta be honest. It's a lot of MR for one item.
Yeah. There's a few tank items that it really buffed how much MR it was getting. So as much as they may have, helped mages with things like the map changes, that the mages are still gonna have a really hard time getting through tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very strong item.
Not much else to say about that one. Alright, next up. Yeah, I'm not really going to mention anything about Ginsu. It basically works exactly the same, except it doesn't have a mythic passive anymore. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. We got Haunting Guys. Not really much to say about that either. The effect's pretty lame. You just get some extra bonus. It's a new item technically. Re-added. Big of him to admit it. You sure that's not a new item, Jason?
The Haunting Guys?
That's a new item, right?
I don't know. It certainly looks different than we're used to.
I think it's a new item. Wasn't in the game 15 years ago at all.
Yeah, you're right. Totally new item. This is a flaw in the patch notes.
Alright, and then we got some changes to Heartsteel here. It's basically weaker early on, but I think it's perfectly okay from where it, since it was a mythic before. Basically, it's a slightly less snowbally, but it's also cheaper, and I actually think this is probably a buff to it, honestly, because the sooner you can get this, if you get this like one back sooner than you were getting it before, it's probably worth it. This is going to stack up slower in the early game, but it's going to be more powerful and more snowbally later on, because while the scaling is slower, the amount that you keep as bonus health is better than it was. It's basically a 20% swing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a buff per se, but for the fact that it was demythicized and it's supposed to lose some power by no longer being an intentionally overpowered mythic, I think Heartsteel came out looking pretty good from it.
It's just weaker early on, but better later on. That's pretty much it.
It also doesn't give you like the extra bonus health.
Yeah,
for your
that would have been
items.
nice. Instead, we got bonus size, which basically doesn't do anything from a gameplay standpoint.
And remember that even though the bonus health it went from 10 to 20 to 12%.
That's why it's
but
better
you're dealing
game.
Yeah, but you're dealing less damage, so you're actually getting. Well, no. But you're dealing less damage in every way, and you only get bonus health equal to a percentage of the damage that you dealt.
You basically just reiterated the point I made.
It's definitely not stronger later on. You're wrong about that. But it's not that much weaker.
It is stronger later on.
There's no world in this just is stronger later on.
It just it ramps up slower earlier because the damage got nerfed by like 20%. But once you get basically to the same point at like say 30 minutes that you were before.
In terms of your maximum health, you're saying?
Yeah, then the 12% is going to be more snowbally than the 10.
Wrong, because you're only getting 12% of 5% of your maximum health instead of 10% of 6, which is exactly the same thing. You're not getting more in any form. You're getting very slightly less. And then you also don't get the extra maximum health for each of your other legendary items. So that amount of maximum health, you're never going to quite get to the same point with. Just trust me on this. It's very slightly weaker in the late game than the old version was. But considering that it's no longer a mythic, it came out looking like roses.
Alright, next up we've got another new item, Hallowed Radiance, and this is basically just a ripoff of Sunfire Cape, but in MR form. Pretty shameless, honestly. And that's pretty much all it is. Yeah. It's just MR version of Sunfire Cape, except it's a little worse in terms of damage.
Yep, it has a really nice stat line though, 600 health plus the magic resist.
Yeah, and trust me, I already tried in game, and they already caught on to this. You can't build them both at the same time, unfortunately. First thing
Right.
I fucking tried, man. I gotta be honest, I don't think it would have been that busted even if you did.
Yeah, I don't have much about to say about this. It's a little weird that given that they already had a few other like wave pushing items that they felt the need for this, but whatever, it's fine.
No, I like things this in the game that give you like different choices to kind of take the same effect. This is probably just a nod that 3 months from now they'll probably just take Sunfire Cape out of the game.
Yeah, it's like can you really name a lot? I mean, besides having the choice between magic resist or armor, can you really like point to where you'd want to use one over the other? Is it just about the armor versus magic resist calculation?
Well, Sunfire does more damage than this by a tiny amount. That's pretty
Uh huh.
much it.
Yeah. And most of the time, I guess, even if you're not going against AP champions top lane, you might be going against magic damage, in like a Mundo or an Ornn or whatever. So
Technically,
yeah, I'm
this
fine with them having two different versions.
for split pushing, technically this one's better because if you last hit something, it blows up next to the other minions. So I guess this is faster.
I would probably rather they just had one single like Sunfire item that had 30 armor and 30 magic resist, but whatever.
I don't really think there's a problem with just the game having a ton of fucking items. I mean, for God's sakes, the game's a million years old. We got like
Mhm.
140 fucking champions. Who the fuck cares if there's a bunch of items in the game? You
I
know?
mean, why would you want 12 different items to do the same thing?
Well, they wouldn't all do the same thing because you don't have 12 different functions. I mean, there'd probably be like an AD version of this, an AP version. I mean, I'm in armor and MR. This one's fine because there's only so many directions you can take this in,
Hmm.
but it would never get that silly. That's why I just think it was stupid for them to take all the items out of the game that they did. If they kept all of that shit in the game, maybe a couple they could have got rid of that were just kind of goofy and cheesy. Like we kept Anathema and Hullbreaker and shit, but we got rid of like Gale Force. I would have been happy that they added most of the shit that they added to the game if they didn't like take away all of these items that have become like the cornerstone of like so many champions now.
Yeah, the problem was often it was a cornerstone of a champion that the cornerstone was supposed to be something in their kit, and now it was an item instead. So
Well,
I don't hate it nearly as much as you do.
for example, like Jin basically takes Gale Force like almost every game. I never liked it on him because I wanted something that did more damage, but that was like the trade-off. Like Gale Force, stat-wise, doesn't do as much damage as other.
It still had a lot of crit and attack speed on it.
Did not have a lot of attack speed on it compared to like most of the shit you could take.
No, but it still had a lot.
But for Jin specifically, this was like a good item for him because his unique form of getting AD made him make much use of the passive damage and fill the hole that he sorely lacked. And it
Hmm.
was a choice between mobility and taking something that did more
Yeah,
damage, like
Gale Force
instead
was
of
an item that I really liked in theory.
Infinity Edge, for example.
Gale Force was actually one of my favorite mythics from a design point of view. It is a little sad to lose that one, but I
And
completely see why they did it.
if they were so butthurt about it, they could have just fucking nerfed the cooldown or removed the damage component entirely and just kept it in the game. And it would have still been taken by tons of people.
Right, right. Again, I think like having like a better escape item for an ADC that had like really, really low stats and no damage on it would be a cool thing that they could have added back in this 14.1. That was a missed opportunity. I completely agree with you there.
Well, there's no incentive for an AD carry to take an item that doesn't increase their DPS.
Well, if it increases their uptime, that's the incentive.
That's like just a dead item, even if it gives them an escape. If it doesn't give them any
There's a
sustain
reason.
or
There's a
attack
reason
speed.
that, and I guess it does have some AD on it, right? I'm not saying it would need to have no AD or attack speed, but there's a reason that ADCs build Guardian Angel as a final item.
That's because it synergizes with them because it gives AD.
It does give AD, but not a ton of it. Much less than most items. It gives no attack speed, no crit chance, and mainly they're using it for uptime.
Yeah, but
But yeah.
if you took
Like,
the
I
AD
think
off of that, I don't think people would build it.
I agree with you, right? You would need some sort of damage stat on that AD escape item. I'm just saying it would need to be a lot less compared to most other AD items.
Alright, next up we've got Horizon Focus. This lost all the
Good.
health, got more ability haste, lost some AP, and got a new little interesting thing where if it marks one person with Hypershot, it reveals all of the enemy champions around them for a few seconds. That's kind of interesting. I guess that kind of is in line with the whole artillery mage shtick. So
It's not just artillery mages. Remember that, like, 700 units, right? Like, you can hit someone with a Morgana bind or something like, or for that matter, you don't need to immobilize them anymore. You can hit them with a Morgana W, probably from about 700 range. You could hit them with a Yumiel. You could hit them with I think even Zyra's E, Nico's E, go over 700 or at least close to it. There's so many different champs you could use this with. And the fact that you can reveal sight of the entire area, 1,200 units compared to the 700 that you have to be, so you're able to reveal people who are actually behind you when you're firing in front of you. There's a lot of utility for this in team fights, and I think that you're gonna find not only support mages, but maybe a bunch of supports that you wouldn't expect to usually be building AP start building this just to provide a lot of vision for their team in team fights, especially at the high levels as you get close to pro play. 1,200 is like a huge area. And the way I understand it is you'll even get vision of people that are in bushes. You'll even get vision of stealth champions like Evelynn and Shaco.
yeah. It says sight though.
I think reveal enemy champions. I think means that you have true sight of them.
This says, but not stealth. Because if it was true sight, it would be stealth.
You're right. Okay, so you can still, get the assassins that are hiding in bushes, though.
True.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to add to, like, a straight AP item. And damaging them from 700 units away is a weird trigger for something like this, rather than just making it like an active where you can see everything around you. So I don't know what to think of it, but I think you're going to end up seeing this on a lot of champions that you don't expect. And honestly, go on.
I think this is the secondary effect of this is going to be something that's going to kind of fly under the radar. Because this is one of those items that's a really good like 5th or 6th item if you already have a lot of Magic Pen. Because basically increasing all your damage by 10% is essentially the same as having some extra Magic Pen.
Well, you still need your Magic Pen item. You still need Rabadons, which is going to increase it by a lot more. You're still gonna want something like Shadow Flame, right? Unless that was that one of the items that was taken out of the game?
No, that got some hella crazy change. We'll get down to it in a minute, but that one's psychotic.
Yeah, I don't know that you're still gonna need a couple core items. You're still gonna need your boots. I don't know that you find room for this in a 6-item build for most champions that are just trying to amp their damage mid lane.
Well, they took some items out of the game, like that had Magic Pen item. So now there's no more Night Harvester. There's no more. The old Luden's gone. I know they added a new one. We'll get to that in a second. And there's no more Magic Pen on Orellonomicon, I think it was. Yeah. Not to mention, without the like Magic Pen Mythic synergies, now there's less Magic Pen than there was on Protobelt and Ludens, who had the Magic Pen synergy. So.
Yeah. I just don't know that you can fit Horizon Focus into a standard 6-item build if you're just going for the damage amp here. Maybe. Back when it had a little bit more ability power, it seemed like it was easier to fit in.
I'm not even sure what my like standard like max damage mage build would be now, since they moved around and changed so many goddamn things. I'll probably go into the custom tool and just make some blanket, generic
Yeah,
max
love
pen
to hear
build.
on the next patch notes, or whenever, what you find the best like max damage mage build to be.
Probably
We had
Ludens
this weird
or
item,
something.
Hubris. What is this?
This one's kind of interesting, actually. This one definitely went to some odd places. This one, and I'm not sure the visual how this is going to look, but you kill
Yeah, is
someone
this an
and you
actual
make a
item or
statue of
no?
yourself that's basically at your fountain. And every time you kill someone, I guess your statue gets more pimped out and gaudy or something like that. And then this is for like the real, roamers, talons, I guess, is of the world kind of thing. And then you just keep your pimped out statue forever. And then every time you kill someone, you get a buff based on your current pimp level of your statue for a full minute, which,
At 25 stacks, your ego grows so large it turns into Kanye West.
yeah, I mean, for this doesn't look like it has a cap, which makes sense. I mean, it's just one flat AD. But getting this early, I mean, it's a lot kind of like Heartsteel. You'd want to get this first and then just kind of try to run the table, see how high you can get this. And every time you activate it, I guess you're hoping for that extra 20 or 30 AD, which essentially would give this 90 or almost 100 attack damage. And that's probably the
Yeah,
dream power fantasy.
after a takedown for 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is an assassin item, and it's basically a stick of stats for the assassin, right? It's Yomus.
Yeah,
It's got a
this
lot
is cool.
of vitality. It gives you a bunch of bonus attack damage. And the fact that it's for 60 seconds rather than a few seconds means that an assassin can use it, get out of a fight, and then find like a stray target later on, take them down.
Yeah, with how long like Soul Stealer's been in the game and how long Sword of the Occult, if you remember that item, has been out of the game,
Yep.
I really like that they added something like this back into the game to kind of be similar to Soul Stealer.
Yeah, it's snowbally, but it's more like consistently snowbally than something that you can become, a demigod or lose everything.
It's true. It doesn't look like someone will be able to go back to your base and go fuck up your statue to ruin this. So.
Your statue's peen becomes smaller every time you die.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting. This might actually be something you'd want to take on the goofier snowbally champions with infinite or high AD like Jhin or Senna might be able to abuse this more than some people. And those are some outliers that most people might not be thinking of. You might be thinking of like Talon or Zed or something like that. But I guarantee you Jhin or Senna is probably someone this would stick out to a lot.
I think of the assassins as the best users for this because of the way that you have to get a takedown to proc the damage, and then it lasts a long time,
Yeah,
a relatively long time.
but the thing
But
is,
I agree
way,
with you that someone like Jhin will use it well as also.
yeah, the way Jin's passive functions, basically any bonus attack damage, he'll
Yeah.
get some incredible boost out of. So he could easily end up getting like 150 AD out of this item or something silly.
Yeah, Raven, just based on the fact that his axes hit so hard based on his AD. Yeah, who else might be really good for this?
I say those two because they can build an insane amount of attack damage. So
even someone like Vi might be a sneaky good user of this.
maybe. Then there's always Yasuo, right?
Yeah, Trash. Well, Trashio really likes having crit, doesn't he?
Yeah, but if you're one of those, there's no downside to dying. So if you got your textbook 10 and 10 Yasuo, why wouldn't he want to buy this like second or something?
Yeah, fair
maybe
point.
First.
I definitely don't think he'd want to use this first. Like, I think Trashio wants 2 crit items to start the game.
If you're running lethal tempo, you can really get away with building anything on him first if you're good enough. You know?
That'll be interesting to see. I can't imagine something like this being a good start for Trashio, but like it's interesting. Like I'd like to see it.
All right, next up we've got Hull Breaker. Thank
Middle
God.
finger to game balance.
Thank God this was nerfed pretty hard, because this basically was a mythic in all but name with the amount of free stats that it gave people top lane. No longer gives an insane amount of armor and MR when you're by yourself. In fact, it no longer has an effect at all when you're by yourself anymore for you personally. Now it just pimps out your minions to have more armor and MR. And it also still incentivizes you to be a shit with like auto-attacking turrets and stuff and all that. But it's definitely not as bad as it was before when it gave an awesome amount of attack damage, an awesome amount of health, movement speed, and then mythic level resistances too. I mean, it was just so stupid before. It wasn't even funny.
I wonder whether this might be too stupid against towers still, with 400% base AD, plus 7% of your maximum health, which with a lot of split pushers is going to be 4,000 plus. The Scions, the Cho'Gath, the Yoriks of the world. You know, like, yeah, you have to hit it 5 times. But I feel like that still probably wills better to the amount of bonus damage you were getting against structures in the past. The fact that it's not giving you bonus resistance anymore is good for game health, because if one split pushing top laner got ahead, they would build this, and then since they were ahead, 2 people from the other side had to match them, and then if 2 people were matching them, the person who was behind couldn't build the overpowered Hullbreaker because they needed somebody else to help match, and therefore they weren't getting the bonuses.
Oh, no, sir. It don't matter how far you were behind, you would still build this item. The stat lineup it gave you was just too good. It gave you so many stats, no matter what.
Yeah, but you were getting much less benefit from it as the person who was ahead, because they were able to be alone. So, like, that was a good change that they made to take off the bonus resistances, but I still think this is just too ridiculous against towers. Like, fine, if it takes 5 stacks to proc, that's a good change. This should have a 30-second cooldown.
Yeah, I was thinking this is like
proc it once per siege on a tower.
This is like Demolisher with no cooldown, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I do agree that this is probably just stupid in another way, but I think it's
probably going to adjust the numbers.
It's a form of stupider that I'm happier to live with than the other one.
What they should do is they should have a 30-second cooldown like Demolisher on the bonus proc.
Yeah,
then this would actually be probably a fine item for split pushing and game health.
Well, it also does bonus damage to champions too. It just does way the hell more to structures.
Yeah, I think most of the people that are going to use this aren't going to hit champions with 5 auto attacks, and if they do, that's fine. Deal some extra damage to them.
Oh, I can't wait to see the all attack speed. Actually, people would just put this on probably Vayne top and just build normally, and it'll be busted. If she attacks really fast, so then she'll be able to use this much faster. And if she just builds standard AD carry,
it doesn't give you any. It doesn't give you any bonus damage for bonus AD though. It gives you much more bonus damage for your maximum health, which Vayne isn't going to build even top lane.
True.
I like the theory.
But top Vayne is gay, so I think they do it. Yeah. People probably just build this on anybody.
The theory, but I don't think top Vayne is building this. Although maybe top Vayne is dumb enough to build this. I don't know.
Oh, Vayne's W is so broken. You can build like anything on her and she's strong.
Alright, let's move on.
Alright. Not much to say about Iceborne Gauntlet. It's probably weaker than it was before. It lost its mini exhaust effect, which I actually thought was pretty cool. Didn't really get anything to compensate. It's
that was a demythicizing price to pay.
Yeah, but it also lost its mythic passive though, so got double hit. Yeah. On the plus side, this thing's a lot cheaper now. Sheen effect's just as weak, and it lost a bunch of stats across the board. So yeah, still don't think this is what Nasus would want to take.
No, I think Nasus has better things to build for a lot of health. I mean, the stacks already provide him all the damage he needs.
All
I think
right. Then
there's
we
just
got
one.
the cooldown boots, which got nerfed. I don't know why, but they needed a nerf apparently.
I didn't even notice this. Ooh, that is, yeah, that's actually a pretty big loss. I don't know whether the summoner ability haste is lost here. Oh, it's still it's 12. Yeah, this is a lot of champs that want to build Lucidity don't really have a lot of other good options. Maybe you build the Swifties now. What do you
Yeah.
think? Like, 15 ability haste is not bad, but it's not great either.
In fact, the problem is if you want ability haste, you're just going to bend over, take it up the ass, and still build these nerfed boots, or you're just going to get sorcerer shoes.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. This was one that I actually missed when I was writing up the notes. Why do you think they did this?
I don't know.
Fair enough. It
Probably
does at least give you a nicer build path. The existence of the glowing mode is nice, I guess.
shout out to Glowing Moat. It is cheap enough to start the game with that. If you want to start the game with 5 ability haste and nothing else.
Or 10 ability haste. You could build two. You could buy 2 of them.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, giggity giggity giggity.
I guess that's interesting.
Yeah, it feels better as like if you get like a bad back. It feels better than like buying like a fairy charm.
Alright, we got more lifesteal from Immortal Shield Bow, a more generous shield, but no more attack speed, and this item no longer has attack speed as a stat line anymore either. And of course, it lost all of its mythic stats a long time ago. So it's kind of just in there, just hanging in there. Probably will be one of the next items to go, honestly.
I mean, it's still giving you a nice shield. Can't complain with 530 bonus health.
Could be better. I gotta be honest, a lot of the times when I buy this item, you just get popped so fast you don't even see the shield activate. It's almost like, I feel like I'm just buying it for the lifesteal.
I suppose part of the problem is that there are like some AD lifesteal items, right? That also give you health, or are there not?
There used to be. Gore
Uh-huh.
Drinker was the only one, and now it's out of the game, so...
Okay, so if you need the lifesteal, like maybe you even have like some top laners or fighters even in the jungle start building this.
Also, I'd like to say, since we're talking about Immortal Shield Bow, now that Gore Drinker is out of the game, they ruined one of my favorite builds, and that was to build all 5 lifesteal items. And I would do that bot on 80 carries like all the time.
You love that on Malcolm.
It was so stupid and so good because,
Uh-huh.
for like 10 years they never had items with critical strike and lifesteal. But since they added that to Bloodthirster and Shield Bow, man, it's just been so much fun to take top. And then they relegated Immortal Shield Bow back down to a legendary. So for like 6 months I was able to build... I'd always start with Bork because I feel like Bork is always a good starting item. So I'd go to Bork, then I'd get Shield Bow because you tend to get fucked up on anyone who's building all this stuff. And then you go Gore Drinker, and even on a ranged champion, it's actually pretty fun to use its old passive, or its old active, it used to have anyway. And then you'd end it with Bloodthirster and Ravenous Hydra, which also both have sustain on it. So you'd easily get like 50-60% lifesteal or something. And then you always run Bloodline, and then it's kind of your choice between taking Gathering Storm or Revitalize, because one of them increases lifesteal and one of them increases attack damage, which is basically the same thing. It was the most funnest troll build ever, man.
It's so cute that you think we were going to do this video in 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't know what I was smoking. So now that they've taken Immortal or Gore Drinker out of the game, I got to go back to Plan B, which is as your 6th item, instead of giving it a lifesteal item, you just build Spirit Visage, which gives you pseudo lifesteal.
Gives you more healing on that lifesteal.
Yeah, so that's what I used to do in the old days before Immortal Shield Bow was still a mythic. So that's what I'm back to doing now.
Also real nice if you've got like a Yumi on you or something.
And you still have 40% crit and like 350 bonus AD, so damage isn't really a problem still, which is the beauty of it. It's not even really troll, honestly. It's just a different way of doing it.
All right. So what happened to Imperial Mandate here?
Nothing I want to talk about. Let's go down to Jack shows.
Okay.
And this, I think, is actually one of the most important things to talk about. Is now that Jack shows and Heartsteel are both are legendaries, I honestly feel like there's no reason why you wouldn't build both as a tank, like every single game, essentially.
You know what? I can't stand for this. I can't stand for this. We have a 12% target's current health buff on Imperial Mandate. That is huge. That is huge. I cannot stand for this being skipped and buried.
I don't know. It's such a forgettable item.
Given better, well, it was right because like giving like maybe 100 bonus damage wasn't that impressive, but 12% of health, like particularly against like a tank, this will help you. This will help you as much as Ardent Sensor will, I think. Even maybe not consistently, but this will help you along with Ardent Sensor certainly shred through tanks with your ADC.
Yeah, except now it has a 9-second cooldown, up from 6.
Right. But you can still use it on a bunch of different gems. This is per champion.
I guess it's better.
Yeah, better stats, better effect, doesn't cost any more than it used to. I think this is a really good champ if you've got like multiple slows, immobilizes, talking Lulu, Karma, even like Lissandra, might see a use case for building this. Depending on the enemy team.
All right, let's get back down to more important matters.
You wanted to talk about.
So basically, the gist of my argument is that now that Jack shows and Heartsteel are both legendaries instead of mythic, I honestly see we're going to see a ton of games where tanks just build both of these every single game. Because the old argument was that Heartsteel will give you the infinite amount of health scaling, but there's no resistances. And Jack shows will give the most resistances because of its insane passive where it just increases your resistances by a flat percentage. And that that portion of it only got stronger. And this thing gives even more armor and MR than it did before to compensate from it losing its little goofy heal ability, which I don't really think was the end of the world. That was just kind of nice on the mythic version of this, but wasn't really that big of a deal. Now that this has like a 30% bonus to your resistances, I feel like you're just going to build this and Heartsteel like right after Heartsteel, like every single game. And
yeah, Force of Nature third, and then you can keep going for some of the luxury items that also give you a lot of health and resistances. You'll be practically unkillable except by the ADCs, whose supports are giving them Ardent Sensor and Imperial Mandate. And you're just going to have a ton of health, a ton of resistances. You'll be basically unkillable in fights. Maybe we'll even see the return of Poppy to the game.
What's wrong with Poppy?
Maybe. She's just in a really weak place. Like, she needs to be able to survive forever in fights to be relevant.
Alright, next up we've got some dumbass named item, but it actually has a really cool effect. I actually like this one because it's basically Galio's W, but not hot garbage like his W has become. It's actually just better than his W in every way, which is kind of amusing. Gives a shitload of MR, a nice chunk of health, and then this sweet scaling health, or magic-only shield. It's pretty nice. I already messed around with this, dude. This shield can easily become like 1200 or something crazy. I like it. The only thing I don't like is what a dumb name it has, so we won't go into that.
They didn't do a great job with some of the names. 80 magic resist on an item that's also giving you a big magic damage shield. Especially combined with if you have Force of Nature and Jack Show. Mages will not be able to kill tanks this season. They'll be really good at killing, ADCs. They'll be a little bit better at killing assassins, I think. And so that's a fair balance to the game. The ADCs will be the ones killing the tanks. Maybe to some extent the fighters will. there will be a real sense of like this type of role has to match against this type of role. And I think that that's fine in a game that's as well defined as League of Legends. It's going to make ARAM absolute hell. If you get like a team of mages who are already probably going to have like negative stat adjustments against a bunch of tanks, like it's going to be the biggest walkover this side of a Carolina Panthers game. But but yeah, like for Rift in particular, I think it's fine to have this type of rock paper scissors relationship, and it's good that assassins won't be able to kill everyone anymore so easily. Just remember that if you're a mage, you do not want to be going after the tanks. They will just run you down and kill you. You won't kill them; they'll kill you. So yeah, back to this item. This is a very good item for tanks into magic damage. That's all we got to say about it. Very very good item.
There's another MR item later down in this list that's my favorite thing that they added so far. We'll get to that one much later because we still have a shitload of stuff to go through. Alright, let's try to skip through some of this complete nonsense. We got Liandry's back. There's really not much to say about it. It's still the same thing. Doesn't give ability haste as a synergy anymore, or ability haste period. That is kind of a vacuum in ability haste land, as you mentioned earlier. And then we'll go to Lichbane. It is kind of interesting. You can apply this a little faster now, and the sheen effect got buffed a little bit, so it's going to hit slightly harder, but most of the people that have this won't have high base AD, so it's whatever.
Right. I mean, even mages, do have base AD, but it won't be that high. This will be good for the Dianas and the Echoes of the world who do want to attack a few times. The bonus attack speed will make it a little bit easier for them to attack without canceling or breaking their sequence. Also, 100 AP, really nice, right? It's only costing 100 gold more. They buffed this item. This is good for AP assassins. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, not much to say about Locka. It's still a pile of crap. They couldn't be bothered to give it that health scaling back.
At least it's not a mythic now, right? Like, the fact that it's not a mythic means you might be able to fit it into your build somewhere as a support.
It's just so weak. It's such a piece of shit.
Oh, yeah, it's a bad item, but, like, in the right game, you might find a use for it over something like Staff of Flowing Water, or Mikhail's 2, not Mikhail's, Athene's 2. I could see this being like a 5th, 6th luxury item for supports, especially since the shield will scale based on levels. So this might not be a bad 6 item for supports now.
Alright, next we got Lord Dominik's. We got a nerf to the only reason to buy this item. It's kind of a bummer, as you were saying, the 80 carries are going to be dependent on killing tanks now. That'll make it just that much harder. I still think it's very strong, though. So, I think it should be okay. And then we're going to go down to Ludens, because this is kind of important. This has kind of been, in my personal opinion, been buffed to a state where I think it's going to... It was already like the most popular when it was like a mythic. Now I think it's almost gotten to a state where it's going to completely just edge out everything with this effect now, which is just going to encourage you to basically build it on everyone. Now that it has the same thing it did before, except if the target's by itself, they basically just take bonus damage based on the charges system now it has, which is kind of the same thing as it was before.
This seems weak to me compared to a couple of the other, Ludens type mage items that they introduced.
I don't agree.
Because you discharge all your stacks, and most of them are only dealing 35% of the damage. So, great. You can, let's say they're near no one, right? You're dealing 40 plus, let's say you have, let's say it's early game and you have, 200 AP. It's mid game, let's say, and you have 200 AP. So that is another 16. It's dealing 56 damage for the first stack, and for the other 5 stacks in total, it's dealing about 80 damage. That's 140 bonus damage if you stacked it up to 6 times. Compare that to What's the other like similar mage item that was introduced?
If you can't name it, it's not similar to Ludens.
It does, I think, just straight up more damage than that 140.
The Storm Surge thing?
Yeah, the Storm
It's
Surge.
a little different, I guess.
I think the Storm Surge is just a better item. Granted, it's not a Ludens and it doesn't give you mana, but it does much more damage. I mean, the base damage is far more than the 140, in addition to 40% or 30% of your AP. And then
Yeah,
you can still do that to everyone else that's around.
that one's kind of silly
Um,
too, but because
mhm.
this was given even more AP, kept its ability haste, and has all of the mana,
Do you like this one?
I do. It's not a matter of me liking it. I just think what it
Uh-huh.
does is general enough to where most people are going to be kind of forced to take it.
I also have a problem with the fact that, like, of the mage items that they were like, oh yeah, the mage mythics were so stale. We're really working on mage itemization this patch. Most of them just do more damage, when you use an ability. And then the ones that don't do more damage and give you like some extra speed. I don't think there was a lot of creativity or thought put into what the mages need. That was a little disappointing. And they even got rid of one of the the mage items that did something different in Shattered Queen. So I don't know. I don't love this. Um, I don't like it from a design point of view, and I actually think it's maybe slightly on the weak side for what you're paying for it.
Well, did you like the old Ludens?
Um, I thought the old Ludens was fine. I thought it just was too similar to Leandri's the one that they took out, the one that didn't have the mana on it.
Night
Night Harvester.
Harvester.
Night Harvester. I thought that all three of those were too similar. It was basically, yep, we're gonna give you some extra bursts and maybe a little bit of a movement speed when you use an ability, and then it has a short cooldown. And Leandri's was maybe a little bit different in that it didn't give you the burst and didn't have a cooldown, but it was also just a little bit of extra damage. I feel like they it wasn't diverse enough, and it's still not diverse enough. With that said, worth pointing out, you can build two different Lost Chapter items now. So if you really don't want to build tier, but you really want to move into a lot of max mana, that's one way to do it.
Yep. Alright, next up we got Malignant, and the fact that this messes with people's magic resistance means this is probably going to be like a mainstay as like a second or third item. We got another shitload of mana, more ability haste, some AP, and then ultimate haste is kind of fun, and then we got this AoE thing which reduces people's MR. Definitely think that'll be attractive to a lot of the mages in the game.
And does this have a cooldown per champion or no? I don't think it does.
Doesn't say it does, but it seems kind of odd if it didn't.
Yeah, like, can you imagine like Swain just repeatedly creating these zones everywhere?
That'd be cool.
That would be crazy. Lissandra would be a very good user of this, even if there is a cooldown per champion, since it's hard to get off of the land that she's on when she ults, or when she stuns you with her ult. Brand probably wants to. Okay, so here's actually, yeah, this was the one item that they give a little bit of ultimate haste for AP champions. I did forget that that was on there.
Oh, the circle only applies on your ultimate, not just damaging an enemy.
Right. You have to use your ultimate. So yeah, I'm thinking Swain. I'm thinking Lissandra. Probably Brand will like this a lot. Who else will really like this? I think this is a good item.
Probably Kassadin. Be pretty crazy.
Oh, Kassadin. Yeah. Even though he likes to move around a lot, that is still, he's using his ultimate like crazy, and being able to get the 20 ultimate haste just by itself, in addition to the 20 ability haste, is great for him. That's a good pick. Cassiopeia would be really nice because she's already burning you. She's already using Leandris, and she has the miasma to make it even harder to get off of this area. I don't know that she's necessarily the type of champ that wants to build Lost Chapter instead of like the tier items and the Rod of Ages.
You can just
But I
build
think
them all now.
yeah. Generally you're gonna want to start with either a tier or build towards the Lost Chapter as a mage, right? And once you've gotten one of them, it's a little harder to justify going for the other ones just because, you're giving yourself a mid-game power trough by doing so.
I think you just get
You can do
tier.
that if you really want to scale for late, sure.
You get cheer, lost chapter, and catalyst. What do you think of
Oh,
that?
that's right. Yeah, Catalyst as well. You got to be able to use your spells like crazy if you want to do that build. Also, your team better carry you for the first 32 minutes of the game. I really like this item. I think this is the coolest mage item they added to the game by far. And, I wasn't crazy about the other ones, but let me give them their flowers here. I think this is a cool item. Oh, Hui is going to fucking love this.
Oh, yeah. That would be pretty good on him.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of champs that are gonna like this, and even if you're not like a core user, right? Even if you're like a Zyra or something like that, you might like this. Even if you're a Lux, right, and you can't necessarily like even Lux, right, can keep people on the zone. You Q them and then you E and you R them. This will be a lot of extra damage for the people that are tanky enough to get out of it. Yeah, there's actually not even just a set of core users. There's going to be a wide group of users that are going to like this. Basically, if you have some type of CC ability and you have a reliable ult, why not get this? This is a great Lost Chapter item that does something that's different than just what like Ludens or Storm Surge is bringing you. The more I talk about this, the more I like it.
Yeah, I think everything that it does and all the stats it have are just
Yeah.
icing on the cake. I feel like the reason most people get it is just because of the extra magic pen, essentially.
The extra magic pen?
Whatever. Reduce your magic pen. I know those things are slightly different, but
It's only after you use your ultimate. There's a lot of champs that are going to want to end with their ultimate, because they're going to want to bind someone on that area first or slow them on that area first. I don't think that the magic resist is going to be the main part of it, and I could be wrong. You might just be totally right, and I might be totally wrong. But I don't see the magic pen being as important as the ultimate haste is. In addition to just the damage that you're dealing every second.
This would be like dynamite on Malzahar, right?
Yeah, for sure. Although, in fairness, Malzahar is... Okay, so in fairness to both of us, right? Malzahar is usually unloading his combo before he ults, and that way they're taking the E damage and the minion pecks while they're ulted. But then Malzahar's cooldowns are short enough that you can use another combo after he ults. Yeah, this really is going to have a lot of good users, and this is why I say, right, like, give the ultimate haste to the mages. There's so many reasons that they want that. Give them two different choices for things to go for the ultimate haste in, and maybe make them mutually exclusive. Maybe make it so you can't build both. But yeah, either way, like, if you're a mage, look into this item. It will probably be good for you, and it will be a lot of fun to use.
All right, we need to start speed running this. Let's skip down to... We talked about this earlier. Morellonomicon lost its magic pen and its health. Now it's kind of just the Grievous Wounds item. Kind of a bummer, but they did make it dirt cheap now to make up for it.
You're talking Morella?
Yeah.
We're just skipping Moonstone?
Yes, we are.
What did they do to Moonstone? They basically just left it almost the same? They actually made it a little bit stronger. Okay. So yeah, Moonstone, which absolutely sucked last season, probably a better pick now. Morello. So yeah, they took away the health and they made it a lot cheaper. So this is but yeah, this is kind of weird, isn't it? This is a support cost level Grievous Wounds item, but the 800 version, the Oblivion Orb, or what? It's 800, right? That already gives you the full Grievous Wounds. So why would you build this when you could build something better with your Oblivion Orb?
This is the only item Oblivion Orb builds into.
Oh, it doesn't build into the one of the Magic Pen items anymore? It doesn't. You're right. You're right. Okay. Yeah. This is like a this is if you're desperate for Grievous Wounds as a mage, or if you're a support, it's fine.
Going back to Moonstone briefly, though,
Huh?
now that
Yeah.
Moonstone is a legendary, now you can build it at the same time as Heartsteel, and it makes for some pretty silly Shen ults. And that's part of my Cheese Lord strat, because you either give someone like a 2,000 hit point shield, and your ally
or you're
next,
shielding both of the people in a team fight.
or your ally next to them also gets a giant shield, or they're by themselves and they get an absolutely preposterous shield. It's
It's
just
kind
the
of weird
stuff
that they
of
went
legends.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably better on a single target now than it is on multiple targets. Like 40% versus 30%, or for the shields, it's even more insignificant, 45 versus 35. Like generally, you're going to want to put all of your value on whoever's being targeted. They still need to fix this to make it not the nearest allied champion, but rather the most injured nearby allied champion. They still haven't done that. But at this point, just like, I don't know, like, just make it a straight 35% on everything and call it a day.
I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but today or tomorrow, I'm definitely going to play some games until I get some ults with Shen with this.
Yeah,
getting,
no,
I'm
I
getting
agree
this
with
as
you.
like my third or fourth item, because, yeah. And this is the build where I run Revitalize and Guardian and Heal on
Sucks
Shen.
that he can't use the mana regen, though.
He can use everything else. No biggie.
Yeah, I mean, there's several hundred gold worth of mana regen on the stat, but I agree with you. Just that shield probably makes it worthwhile. I don't know. I would like them to just make it a straight like 35%, or even make it 25 or 30%, and then basically have a second passive while you're near 2 or more ally champions gain 15% heal and shield power, which would also apply to the Starlit Grace bonus.
Nope, I like it the way it is.
Yeah, it's it's kind of stupid that they're nominally rewarding using it when there's another ally nearby, and actually penalizing you for doing so.
I can't wait till I ult this and it randomly saves 2 people or randomly saves 1 person with an absurd
You are the
shield.
biggest Shen stan I've met in my life, and I know people on my buddy list who have Shen in their name.
I'm still pretty butthurt that they got rid of Radiant Virtue, because I was waiting for that to move down to Legendary so I could build that along with Heartsteel, but
Alright.
I'll never get the chance, because that would have been hilarious too.
Alright, tell me about Navori Quickblades.
Oh, I don't really have much to say about this
item.
one. It still retains basically the same functionality. I mean, yeah, that one's not really much worth talking about. It does exactly the same thing. They just mess with the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, are there more places to add it into a build now that it's demythicized?
No, I mean it was already niche before. I don't think
Huh?
more people were gonna build it now. It was
You don't
already
think,
like
the Ravens of the world are going to go for it?
no, I mean it was basically
Okay.
being used on all the people with dashes. So
Yeah,
those
yeah.
same people are gonna be building it, and the same people that didn't want it probably aren't gonna want it still. You know.
But you don't think that fighters will start itemizing this item?
No, I mean there's just so many other better options with that have health on them. You know.
Got it. Okay. What else do we got?
So let me look. Do you have to? Oh,
Blasting wand and needlessly large rod got better, more AP for the same price.
all right. Next up, let's talk about opportunity. Another new lethality item that is the stat stick item. It gives 18 lethality and then potentially 23
I don't
to
think this is a stat
18.
stick item. This is an escape item.
Well, it also gives extra bonus lethality,
It does. It does.
kind of like old Yumu's used to for a month or two there.
Yeah.
And then I guess this is supposed to be the stand-in for Dustblade. You just be Mr. Speedy's on the way out instead of Mr. I can't touch you.
Yeah, I mean, 150 bonus move speed sounds great, but it's only a second and a half, and it decays during that time. So I don't know that it's going to do much besides like open up a single gap with whoever is chasing you down. And if they can close that one gap and you can't reopen it, I don't think this is going to help nearly as much as Duskblade did.
Yeah, I think this is what you take. You build this item right after you get the statue item for the ultimate cheese stat lineup.
Why not just build Yomos?
Well, Yomo's lost its bonus lethality, and now it just is a speed up item like it was 10 years ago.
But it still has a better stat line, doesn't it? Or does it not?
Well, if it does, it doesn't do all the extra things that kind of made it cool for a hot minute.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking at Yomu's. Yeah, you're right. Yomu's is actually more about speed than this item is even now. Yeah, Opportunity is like a weird middle ground between the True Stat Sticks and Yomu's.
Next up, we've got Phantom Dancer. This one might actually be a little more attractive lately, that now more of the movement speed is more front-loaded. At the same time, you actually, you just get the more of the movement speed as the stat lineup, so that should be more attractive, I think, for some people. The attack damage is still pathetic, but you get a lot of attack speed for the active effect, so...
Yeah. Like it's the on-hit types of champs that are building Phantom Dancer, not the ones that want a lot of AD. And the besides, like more of it being front-loaded, I think you get more back-loaded as well. No?
Slightly. Not much to say about that. I guess ultimately for movement speed purposes, it was better before, but for consistency's sake, it's probably better now.
Well, why do you think it was better before for movement speed?
Because it gave 14 before, now it gives 10.
It gave 7 before, didn't it?
The stat line is 7, and then the extra effect is 7.
7 per stack. You can stack up to 35. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. The stacks no longer give you move speed, right?
They never did.
No, the stats never. No, the stats granted ghosting, 7% movement speed, and a stack of spectral walls in the old one.
Yeah, where it says and a stack, that's separate from the movement speed buff. You think this item gave 40 movement speed, 40% movement speed or something?
Oh. I thought it actually stacked up to 4 stacks. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so now it's 10% instead of 7 or 14. I gotcha. Yeah.
All right.
It's a fun item. Yeah.
Let's talk about Profane Hydra. This is one of the worst ones I think they added to the game for the reasons we explained 3 hours ago. Yeah, I'm just not in line with making the assassins have even more effective wave clear. That's pretty much my argument. I think they're good enough as it is, and a lot of them I could see them wanting to build this first. I mean, the statue thing looks juicy, and some of the other stuff looks like a good first buy too. But if it just comes down to roaming, which is like all you fucking do mid lane these days, then this is probably what you're gonna want.
Not only that, it means they can build the Tiamat early and not have to go into like an item that feels a little bit awkward to them. This is a really good item for them. And yeah, I agree with you. When I first looked at this, I'm like, why would an assassin want AoE damage like this? But no, it's all about the wave clear.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we agree. This will be an effective item for assassins, right? But not one that we like to have in the game.
No, definitely not. This is straight cancer, I think.
All right. Not much more to say about it, honestly.
All right, let's skip down to, I guess we could briefly talk about Ravenous Hydra. It gives more stats, less ability haste, same lifesteal.
Yeah.
No, I mean, whatever, whatever. And then lost the thing where you stack it and get even more health, but to make up for that, it got its active effect back from like 4 or 5 years ago, where you just do basically its passive effect around yourself, which doesn't even benefit from the lifesteal like it used to in the old days. So it's
Oh yeah,
whatever.
you used to be able to get some health back by doing that, like
Yeah,
particularly against the minion whiff.
it used to give Omnivamp, so that would help you, but
Huh?
now that it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I always thought that those stacks for the tiny amount that they gave you was idiotic and overly
Not for my
overly
lifesteal build, it
complex for
wasn't.
its own sake. I'm talking about the carnivorous passive where it's stacked, not for
Yeah,
the not. Yeah, it was stupid.
that was good for my Cheese Lord build.
It was just so stupid. I'm glad they got rid of that. It was just dumb. Like just add like 10 extra attack damage to the item and be done with it. And that's kind of what they did here. I approve.
Alright, not much to say about Redemption. This is also part of the Cheesy Shen build, because I dropped this on Shen because it increases his ultimate by 15%, which is also just insanely silly.
Here's what I thought would have been cool if they got rid of redemption but added the effect to one of the support final quest items, and it could only be used while you're dead.
Yeah. Good news is they put the ability haste back on this item, so that made me feel better.
I see this item in like 1 out of 50 games, and I think I'm going to continue to see it in like 1 out of 50 games. It's just not a good item.
Nah, man. It has its moments.
Yeah, I mean, with the fact that it's not more expensive, it didn't lose anything, I don't think.
Bro, if
And
you already
game,
have Revitalize, and
uh-huh.
its own heal is affected by its own heal and shield power, it's secretly strong.
It's just so incredibly easy to get out of, and if you're using it like in the middle of a big team fight, no one really cares that much.
Oh, that's not been my experience. I've used this a ton on Shen. Most people do not even bother to avoid the damage on it, and it's really
Uh-huh.
easy to catch your allies in it. I can't even really remember a time where I like missed who I was trying to heal or do damage to with this thing. It's pretty consistent, I think. It's a pretty big circle. I like it.
I just, and the stat line is so bad; it gives you nothing that you really need. Now, at least it'll give you the ability haste, which is kind of useful. There's just so
True.
many better items in the game than this. I kind of wish they would have, just taken the effect off of this and put it on some other item that was already good.
Can't
All
be
right,
can't
we
be
can agree
doing
to
this.
this.
This thing is bonkers. You just do redemption and then
Bonkers.
immediately
Item is not bonkers.
on Shen it's bonkers. You either do redemption and then ult and then it heals you as you show up, or as soon as you show up, you just redemption on top of yourself. It's fucking busted. And it's awesome on Shen because as a laner you have some extra fucking quarters to play around with. So the fact that it only costs 2,300, you can get this
Uh,
thing like pretty fast as like your second or third item.
all right, maybe a Shen item, but I don't know. I'd rather have a lot more tankiness than 200 health and no resist as Shen.
All right, let's talk about the final or second to last item in the Cheese Lord Shen build that I came up with this morning. Now that you can
God.
build Riftmaker and Heartsteel simultaneously, now basically every time you get a stack of Heartsteel, you basically get like 2 or 3 AP from this thing's passive, which is pretty funny. They got rid of Demonic Embrace, and then they decided to slap that passive onto
Yeah, that's pretty
Riftmaker.
funny.
So there is some pretty comical builds to be had, at least for the next 6 months, for when the mid-season bullshit comes out and they change half the game again. So I'm going to enjoy it while I can. The only downside of Riftmaker is now you don't get any sustain initially from the people who bought this for that, and you only get the sustain when this item is like maxed out. And that feels kind of goofy. Feels like it should be like kind of a half and half, or like kind of a 25% and then like 75%, or maybe you get like 10% and then another 5. However you want to cut it, it does feel kind of awkward that you don't get any sustain
Yeah,
from the
the
get-go.
0% Omnivamp is definitely a loser here.
But you get 10% eventually, so this should still be absolutely dynamite on people like Shen, or not Shen, on Vladimir, or not Vladimir, I mean Swain.
Oh,
Swain,
Vladimir, yes. Vladimir,
Vladimir.
yes.
Yeah, it'll be good on him, I guess. And then Swain,
Cassiopeia.
Mordekaiser, stuff like that should be a lot of fun to be had.
Galio could even see some benefit from something like this. He doesn't usually do enough damage to really make it great, but he can stay in combat for 5 seconds.
Probably don't want it on Galio. His DPS isn't really consistent enough to make use of the Omnivamp.
Yeah, I have seen some AP Galios do well
But
recently.
if it's just about getting an item that gives you a
And
bunch
it's
of
hard for him to stay in for 5 seconds.
that gets you a bunch of free AP with health, I guess it's acceptable.
Yeah, no more true damage either. I'm not sure whether you mentioned that or not.
I didn't mention that, but yeah, it's not really a huge deal. You still get bonus damage. Honestly, this item does so much. It's really going to find a home on a lot of champions. And now that Demonic Embrace is gone, and most people were buying that because they're addicted to watching damage over time effects, not because it actually gave ability power for bonus health, I think Riftmaker is going to find a home with a lot of funny combinations with Heartsteel, because it's just too stupid to pass up now. It's too stupid. You can get like 200 AP from this item.
200 AP for let's see, 120 AP from the bonus health would mean you have 6,000 bonus health. I guess if you're a Cho'Gath.
Heartsteel for days.
Yeah, Cho'Gath, I guess, Cho'Gath would absolutely want to use this, actually.
And since everything's a legendary, you could just build all the mythics. So as soon as you're done with Riftmaker and Heartsteel, just go throw a Jak'Sho's on there too. Can't go wrong.
Why don't we just open the game up to 8 item slots, Chrissy?
I'd be cool with that, honestly. That'd be one of the less stupider things I wouldn't mind seeing.
I don't know about that. All right, Route of Ages.
If they really slowed the game down, like really slowed it down, I'd be cool with having 8 slots.
Yeah, I mean if they slowed it down a lot.
All right, let's skip past some of this fluff. Why don't you run us by? Oh wait, no. Runic Compress. That's just the tier 2 version of the gold item. Let's skip on to something way more interesting.
Seekers. Seekers is interesting.
Seekers.
Yeah. They turned this into an hourglass.
Oh, that's right.
Or into a stopwatch.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Yep.
Anything more?
It's a 1,600 gold item now. Better stats. No longer scales with unit kills, which was always dumb. And yeah, it's the one-time stopwatch now. So if you're building towards Zanya's, you can still get an earlier stopwatch if you're willing to pay 1,600 gold for a mediocre stick of stats.
All right, yeah, that is cool.
Kind of cool.
All right, why don't you talk about Serelda's Grudge real quick?
Why would I talk about Serelda's Grudge?
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of interesting. They added not only lethality to this, flat armor pen, but then also flat armor pen that's scaled with even more lethality. Really, it seems like redonkulously over the top.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like, this is good for assassins. I don't know if you're gonna have a lot of ADCs building this as a late item like you used to, but definitely good for assassins. The fact that you can get that slow off once they're low on health means that you can, if you need 2 rounds of spells to kill a target, you're more likely to get your chance now. 3,200 gold. It's nothing but a late game item, but yeah, probably a good one for assassins. What do you think?
It's definitely a late game item. I don't think you'd want to get it on 80 carries because they're probably not going to have any other lethality items.
Right. But and you
have to do ability damage. You can't slow them with just auto attacks.
Like 80 carries were buying it.
Yeah, but gave more armor pen straight up back then.
Yeah,
and it also gave a ton of ability haste. And it also slowed people at 100% health then. Now they got to be low.
That's true.
And you have to use an ability.
Yeah, don't buy this before your 5th item, pretty much ever. And I would say generally it's a 6th item.
No, I think if you still care about slowing people, you could get it earlier. I mean,
Uh,
20% armor straight off the bat with 15% lethality simultaneously, that's still really good.
Assassins have other ways to catch up to their targets most of the time. This is a luxury, not a necessity. I think doesn't one of the assassin items also provide a 99% slow?
I don't remember. Maybe.
Yeah, we skipped so many that it's hard to remember what was and what wasn't. But yeah, I don't see this as being anything before a fifth item. And it is straight up an assassin item. Um, would somebody like a lethality Garen want this? I guess they could. I mean, it's useful. All the stats are useful to him. The extra slow is useful. Yeah, maybe there's a couple of like cheese lethality, like top lane fighters that might use this. Via Gen, between gap closers. But yeah, mostly this is an assassin item, and certainly fifth or sixth item only.
Alright, next up we've got Shadow Flame, and I actually think this is one of the most interesting changes they made. Gives more AP, it gives flat magic pen, and it was already giving some of that before. But most interesting, it allows your magic. Yeah, it allows your magic ability, magic damage, and your true damage to crit. I wouldn't necessarily say it's an execute. It just basically straight up makes your magic and true damage crit for 20%
really
bonus
crit,
damage.
Right? I don't think it interacts with like crit multipliers like Infinity Edge. I don't think it it uses any type of crit chance system. Essentially, it's just like a 20% buff if they're below 35% health. Right?
Yeah, I honestly think this is going to be absolutely mandatory in every single mage build.
I definitely disagree with that, but I do think this is a lot better than Luden's.
I think Ludens would be a better first buy just because of the mana and the ability hasten.
I guess you could use them together.
Well, you definitely would use them together.
Uh huh.
But yeah, I don't see any mage not having this in their build. And then the idea to do more damage when you need it most when someone's like low, I think is going to be pretty hard to pass up on pretty much every mage for the most part.
Well, this is like a medium ground between like a Rabadon's or like a Void Staff.
Yeah.
This is like a middle ground where it provides some penetration, and some amp, but not nearly as much of a pure amp as something like Rabadon's would give you. It's a good item. It's a good item. Certainly. And remember that like a lot of mages, like Vhagar, for example, I don't think is gonna want this. He already, gets himself a lot of pure AP. This doesn't amp your AP per se, and he's trying to finish people off when they're above 35% health. So if he's hitting them when they're at 38% health and either killing them or failing to kill them, this isn't going to do anything for him.
No, but he sucks against tanks, and this would definitely help him for that.
He's never going to be able to get through a tank with 440 magic resist. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of mages that will like this and a lot that actually will not. And I think that's fine, right? You don't have to buy this. Why do you think that they made DOT damage a little bit better on the critical strike than all the other magic damage? Is that stupid, or is there some good reason for that?
I imagine because persistent damage and pet damage are incredibly small.
Uh-huh.
So it's probably more noticeable if it's more.
I guess, but it's like, that's designed to be a part of that power of that champ's kit. Okay. Yeah, I just thought that was weird that they amped it up just a little bit more specifically for DOTs.
Honestly,
yeah, if Singed can get enough tankiness from other items, especially with the fact that the resists are easier to get, you have your Jack Show. Yeah, maybe like Singed would like this a lot.
even if they kept this item's old passive, I feel like you'd really want this just for the extra 12 magic pen.
Yeah, the extra 12 magic pen is nice, but I think the amp is even better.
They're both super good. That's why I think this will be like an absolute must buy
Okay.
on most mages. There's be a few that'll be kind of weird and not want to buy this because of how they operate. But for the most part, I think it'll be pretty hard to say no to that.
Sheen has ability haste now, just worth mentioning. Cosmore has ability haste.
Cool.
Yep. Shurelia's is basically the same that it was. This would be a really useful item, right? This always kind of felt bad to give up a more powerful mythic item for, even though like being able to speed up your allies was really nice. The cooldown, the cooldown actually remained the same, 75 seconds. I actually think this will be a really good luxury support item for all different types of supports. Tanks, enchanters. 55 ability power is nice. Having ability haste is nice. Like, I think this is actually a sneaky good item for all supports now. Not saying you're going to want it in every single game. You may not need the speed, but if you do, this is great. What do you think?
I agree that it was like impossible to like want this when it was a mythic, 100%.
Sure.
But even now that it's a legendary, I still think it's kind of like tier 3 kind of thing, probably.
Tier 3, you don't mean like third item, you mean like very situational, usually don't buy it?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like it is an excellent situational item. Mandatory for like a small percentage of games and nice to have in a large percentage of games.
Everything is nice to have.
But like particularly like nice to have over pretty much anything else you could build for a support luxury item. That's my take on it. I really like this now that it's been demythicized without losing much.
It definitely went up in value, not having to choose. So that's true.
And like 55 ability power for support is respectable. 35 is crap.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next up we got the fourth of the support items that you get at the end of the chain. We got the Solstice Slay, and this gives you and your ally a heal and some bonus movement speed. This one I actually I like a lot more than the one that gave the little shield and the bonus magic damage on hit. But I still feel like the first two are better than this one.
Yeah, remember it's a 20-second cooldown, so you don't really have a lot of benefit from having multiple slows or immobilizers in your kit. You just need the one. This is probably gonna be my my go-to Lulu item.
Yeah, this is really good for like an engage. I mean, we talk about the damage amp, we talk about the damage reduction one, but if you're going in with another engage support, giving your AD carry this big speed up for 4 seconds is definitely clutch.
Yeah, as long as you're not too far from them, that's nice. Often, your ally will be at full health when you engage as a tank engager support. So the heal may be wasted, but even just the movement speed bonus for 4 seconds is pretty nice. That's like a full second of movement. That's like a full second of free movement that you're giving your ADC or other ally that's around.
Yeah, I don't see it staying on 4 seconds. That seems too strong.
I would really like something like this with Sona. The problem is you need to either use your ult or your E's power chord to proc it. Are there any other items that you'd be able to build with Sona? Obviously, like Rylai's, that you'd be able to slow or immobilize an enemy with.
Say that again?
Are there any other items that would give a champ like Sona the ability to slow or immobilize an enemy champion? Obviously, Rylai's is one. Are there any others that you could theoretically use? Because being able to give her like the move out once she goes in and uses her power chord is really nice.
You could use Randuin's. I know that's kind of dumb.
Randuin's Omen Sona. Okay. I mean, you could use Shurelia's Grudge too, but like, I'm talking about stuff she could actually use.
I mean, she's always been kind of decent with Sheen, so you could get the Ice Gauntlet thing.
Iceborne Gauntlet would slow them. That's an interesting point. Gives her some more survivability as well as she gets the movement speed out afterwards. That's interesting. I have a couple of times
Yeah,
built the Iceborne on Sona before, yeah.
she has the like slow on her E passive, so you know.
Yeah, and she's also the type of champion that likes to heal allies in small chunks. So this would be really nice in that sense. Yeah, definitely gonna be my go-to Lulu item. Probably a good Karma item as well, since she doesn't offer natural sustain.
True dat.
All right,
Okay, next we're on to the Spear of Sojin. You don't see this get built a lot. My personal opinion is this was probably actually better before they made this change. This thing probably didn't even need to be changed at all. I like how much ability haste. This was kind of a crazy ability haste item before. You could end up getting like 55 ability haste with this thing. Before, now the most you're going to get is like 35. And then instead of getting a bunch of movement speed based on your missing health, now you just get bonus damage for fighting people. Don't know if I like that as much.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a nice damage amp. 12% extra damage after you've been in combat for a few seconds is, nice. Stat line is not that good. Item is still fairly expensive. 35 ability haste. Yeah, I don't see too many different champs using this, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not about
Ravens of the world will still like it.
It's not about being in combat. It's about doing damage with abilities, like
The
Conqueror.
Aatroxes of the world will still like this.
Yep. Okay, let's go down. Skip past some of the fat here.
Staff of Flowing Water sucks now. Just wanted to say that.
Okay, and then now let's talk about Storm Surge, which I suppose might be the potential what do you call that? Adversary to buying Ludens first. I still think Ludens is gonna be like far and away the best choice, but because this item can potentially give you gold and it has like high base damage on its little mini effect, but it is on kind of a longer cooldown, much longer than Ludens is.
Yeah.
And it does have Magic Pen, and now Ludens no longer has Magic Pen. I mean, the fact of the matter is, you could just get one and then get the other, because we live in Mythic. We live in post-Mythic land now. So.
You could, and remember that this is not a mana item. It's much more of a damage them quickly item. And then spike them. So yeah, all you need to do to proc this is to damage 35% of their maximum health, which there are a lot of AP champs in the game that can do that with one hit. Someone like a Xerath might be able to use this really well. Certainly AP assassins like Echoes and Dianas will love this item. In combination with the stronger Lich Bane. I think AP assassins might be the biggest beneficiaries from this preseason. Although again, tanks and fighters have a case to make as well. There's definitely something to like for every class.
Yeah, I keep thinking I know better. Like when I think about it for more than 5 seconds, but my mind is still locked into the Mythic era, and I'm like, wait a minute, why are we arguing? We'll just buy both the fucking things, right? Why are we arguing like Ludens first or Storm Surge? It makes more sense to build Ludens first because of the mana, for the most part. Maybe Akali. Yeah, like Akali's going to want to probably build this first. But that's a very niche case. Like Akali...
All AP assassins will want to skip Ludens and build this, I think. I don't think Echo is building Ludens.
Echo?
Yeah.
Well, he always kind of built Proto Belt, and Proto Belt didn't have mana, so he must not have mana problems.
Right. I just think this is a straight up better item than Ludens. If you need the mana, you can build Ludens first and then this, but there are other options for Ludens. I think most people will want to build Malignance and then Storm Surge rather than Ludens. That's my guess, but
now I want to know, is this lightning they get hit by? It doesn't really... Is this a lock-on, or can you actually like dodge the Storm Surge thing that hits you?
I think the first part of it is a lock-on.
No, I mean the second half, where after you mark them,
you wait 2 seconds, and then they get zapped by, honestly, a very generous base numbers and ratio on this. This is actually
Yeah.
a bit silly.
Yeah, like this is so much better than Luden's. But yeah, the electric field, I think is just based on who's near them in 2 seconds, so you can avoid it by not being near that champion.
But if this was kind of as fast as like Pyke's ultimate, I think that'd actually be kind of cooler, because Pyke's ultimate is like the fucking fastest thing in the game, almost. And I think if there was some kind of outplay potential.
It's fast once it starts emitting within the 2 seconds. It might even be instant. But it takes 2 seconds.
I mean, when it's about
to... Wait. Sorry. If they die within 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, it's very fast, I think. I don't think that you can easily avoid this.
I don't mean avoiding it as someone else who's trying to avoid the person who got blown up. I mean being the person who's getting zapped in 2 seconds, if you could avoid getting hit by the lightning thing. Or you're just going to get hit.
You can.
Yeah, with that.
Just Onions.
Yeah. I was thinking if maybe it was more like Hui's QW, where that lightning thing comes down after a brief delay.
No, I think it's much more like the Elder Dragon execute.
Yeah, more like electrocute, essentially.
Yeah. Well, electrocute happens immediately, right? It's not delayed. It's more like Scorch.
Okay, Scorch.
Yeah. It's more like Scorch, yeah. And yeah, like don't sleep on the fact that this is also giving you the bonus movement speed. Not only on the statty item, but 25% bonus just by dealing 35% of their maximum health. Like, unless you're going against a tank, which, again, you should not be doing as a mage anyway. Like, 1 hit, 2 hits in the mid-game, you're proccing this. You're getting this very easily. It's not a 3-hit passive. This is a very strong item.
The thing is, even on someone like Akali or Kennen, whoever you imagine building this first, then you can just go straight into Luden's, and yeah, the mana goes to waste, but it still gives you magic damage on hit on your abilities, so it would still be really good.
I just don't think that Luden's is giving you enough, personally. I understand that in concept, like the two work together because they're doing the same thing. They're both giving you the movement speed and the extra damage on hit.
Oh no, they took away the movement speed on Luden's.
Oh, did they?
That would be... I don't even really think that was necessary, though. It's just, you're going to want...
Yeah, I just think Luden's is a bad item now.
It's definitely not bad if it does pretty much the same thing it did before and everyone bought it more than any other item before.
It doesn't give you the movement speed, and it just does a lot less than it did before. It used to deal much more consistent damage with a shorter cooldown. Alright. But yeah, I think Storm Surge is a very powerful item. It's a worthy successor to Night Harvester. And yeah, make sure you stay away from any ally that got struck or is about to get struck by the lightning, because that is some hefty damage.
Don't forget about the gold.
We're talking 500 plus damage just from this proc.
Now, one last thing I want to mention, because it doesn't appear extremely specifically stated. You see the part where it says it gives you money?
Yeah. I think it's per enemy hit, but I'm not sure.
So you're saying you hit 4 people with this, and you kill the first person, then you make 120 gold from hitting their whole team if the first person dies? Because that is wild and pretty cool.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's dope.
I think so.
Well, whatever. Right. Even if it was only once per application, it's still free money. I'm surprised they even bothered to put that effect on there.
Alright, big change to Stridebreaker. Why don't you walk us through this one?
Well, let me see. We got more health, less damage, same attack speed, and we lost all the ability haste. You can still activate this while on the move, which was probably the most important thing for this thing to retain. You still get the bonus movement speed on hit from the old Phage, Heartbound, Axe, whatever the hell component. And yeah, now you get some crazy movement speed bonus for chopping up a lot of people with this.
Yeah,
be honest, that
deals a lot less damage on its active. In fact, deals no damage on its active.
Yeah, that's okay. That wasn't really
Yeah.
the point of the ability to begin with.
I agree.
And the thing is, I feel
Good
like
item for Juggernauts.
taking advantage of the big movement speed is going to be kind of niche because Stride Breaker lends itself to being built on a champion who's going to find themselves in a lot of 1v1s and not so much as many team fights. So while it's going to be hilarious the few times that you hit like 3 or 4 people with this and then you're like off to the races, I don't see that coming into play as much. But even if you only get it once, it's still going to be really good.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But I think there's also a lot of use cases where Juggernauts, the Garens, the Dariuses, the Mordekaisers, the Shyvanas of the world, especially once she gets a rework and isn't just a an AP use your E from a distance goon. Their whole shtick is being able to 1v3 or 3v5 a fight. But they have to wade into the enemy territory to do that, and you have to not get pecked too much as you're catching up to them. This will help you do it.
Yeah, it's a shame it lost some of the ability haste because this was one of those actives that got its active effect reduced by ability haste, and I don't think that's the case any longer.
Right, right.
Although not all of them specifically state that, so. Alright, next up we got Sundered Sky, and in my opinion, this is the closest thing to Divine Sunderer that they added to the game. And similar to Divine Sunderer, it gives health and attack damage. Unfortunately, it has a much higher cooldown than Sheen, but I feel like it's the most likely thing that Camille or Jax or Nasus would want to take by like hitting people with their Q. And it'll end up doing more damage, and it'll be better like longer into the fight. This is, I think, the closest thing, but I still don't think it's anywhere near as good as Divine Sunderer was. I don't, for instance, see Ezreal building this or something.
Yeah, kind of cool that you can get the bonus health, rather than it being I guess it's kind of like a shield because it only lasts 6 seconds, but rather than it being wasted. Yeah, getting the heal is nice. It's based on your missing health, and for a tanky fighter, that can be really nice. Where if you have 3,000, 4,000 HP, this is a heal of like 400 with a 6-second cooldown per target. That's pretty damn good, actually.
Yeah, this would be really cheesy on as like a
Nasus item.
Second, Nasus too. It won't be anywhere near as good as Divine Sunderer because of how more often he could.
But Dr. Mundo item.
Like Tom Kench, I'm thinking specifically, but because Tom Kench's Q basically does the same thing as this, so it would be extra stupid on Tom Kench.
Yeah, actually, don't sleep on this as a Mundo item because he can also buff his auto attacks to critically strike for 150%. Like he can buff his auto attacks in the first place with his E, and then he also gets to critically strike. He's probably using Heartsteel, so that Heartsteel strike will deal more damage, I think.
No, I don't think it's going to factor in like on hit or on attack damage. It's only going to factor in his base
Either way, like
AD
good combination.
plus. Yeah.
Either way, like a really good combination. Don't sleep on that. This is a better item than you might think it is. I agree, not as good as Divine, but Divine was an absolute like tumor on the game.
I would have said you were right, like on its release, but that item got nerfed like 10 times. It really wasn't that crazy anymore. It was just good.
Yeah, but it was so good for the champions that used it that they had to keep nerfing it over and over.
Well, if they nerfed it again, could we have kept it then?
I think it had to be reworked into something that would be more generalizably decent across a lot of different champions. Yep. Tier charges a little bit slower, I think.
Yeah, right. Let's go on to Terminus. This one I actually found to be kind of interesting too. It's not the one I like the most. We're almost getting down to my favorite item that they added. But this one is definitely interesting. When I think of this item, because it simultaneously gave you magic resistances and magic shred, I was kind of thinking of Graves the most.
And armor.
What was the other one?
Armor and magic resistance and shred for both.
Yeah, that's my point. Because Graves also gets like armor, and he's always building. He gets armor from his True Grit, and he's almost always building like magic armor pen at the same time. So this almost feels like a match made in heaven for Graves.
Isn't this just another Wit's End, though?
No, this is actually closer to a lost Lord Dominic's or Mortal Reminder or Sorelda's Grudge.
Well, I guess it's percentage.
Well, it's going to give you 30, so that's the same as those other items, so we're close enough to... You won't be able to buy them all. So.
Yeah, and you've got to hit 10 times to get the 30% shred.
Yep.
That'll take a while. I think
like
this
it.
item is weird. I don't hate it, but I think it's just really weird. It's like, do you really need armor and magic resist and armor penetration and magic penetration on a lot of different champions in the game? Probably not.
You're true that you won't need both, but there's a lot of champions who like...
You know, maybe like Jax would like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of champions who you would like armor and armor pen, or magic and magic pen. You don't want all four.
Yeah, it just takes too long to get it for most of those champions that want both of those.
And I don't think it takes 10 attacks. I think you could just get this in 5.
Attacks. Nope, they alternate.
Oh, that's right.
After 2 hits, you have 1 stack of each.
I still like it. The bonus magic damage on hit will keep it.
Jax item. I think this one... I'm going to make a prediction that this one is out of the game by Season 16.
Season 16? That's not even fair. Half the items will be out of the game by then.
And this will be one of those half the items.
That's not fair. That's like... For all we know, this game is an open world RPG by then.
Jason's here to make bold predictions.
This game is going to be an open world RPG in 2 years, for all we know.
Okay. Let's talk about Trailblazer. I have to go in a few minutes, actually.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to speed this up. You keep talking about fucking Tear of the Goddess and the other items, man.
Oh my god. you keep going on like these 32 different like soliloquies about Shen.
Oh, look, this is cool stuff. Actually, that's good. I was trying to be something to feel optimistic about because there's so much dumb shit, man. All right, Trailblazer. Yeah, I like this one too. It's dirt cheap, another support item. It's kind of like Sorelia's, but probably one that you want to buy.
I think it's kind of like more like oh my god, what was it called? The singed item.
You mean Dead Man's Plate?
No, the one that gave you the active boost where you'd gain speed towards enemy champions.
Righteous Glory.
Yeah.
The Turbo Chem Tank. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Turbo Chem Tank, aka New Righteous Glory. This is what it reminds me of more, and I think this is a better version of it. There's 2 champions in the game that have abilities kind of like this, and that's Kled and Hui, that basically move fast and leave a wake with, through which your allies can move quicker. And I feel like that always feels really good to do, both as the ally and as the champion doing it. It helps the allies follow up on your engage easier. This is great. I think there's a case to be made for some champs just never even discharging their stacks. Just literally always keeping their movement speed and the wake behind them. Trying never to auto-attack. Like, if I'm singed, I'm never auto-attacking unless I really, really need to end a fight.
It does say that the path it generates is very brief, so you might have to... it might be hard to actually keep up with the person that actually has this item.
Yeah, it doesn't say how brief it is, right? Like, if it's 3 seconds, you're good. If it's 3/4 of a second, yeah, probably not if they're faster than you are. Hard to say.
Alright, let's skip down to Titanic Hydra. And this is actually a pretty big deal, and this is one of the things I was the most upset at of the changes they made. Yes, it got way more attack damage. Yes, it got some more health, but the biggest thing to talk about is it no longer gives you actual attack damage. Instead, all it gives you is physical damage on hit, which is nowhere near as good as actually gaining bonus attack damage, which can then be filtered into like all of your AD ratios. So this is actually a really, really big deal, I think, for a lot of champions who could kind of just have this as their only damage.
Like having the AD ratios.
Their only damage item in their kit. This is such a huge disappointment. I mean, going back to like Atma's Impaler, there's always been kind of an item that transferred health into like AD, and now that's no longer a thing. I really hope they bring this back or put it on another item or something, because this is really a Debbie Downer that you can't have this anymore.
Yeah, the high health ratios on all of Titanic Hydra stuff is nice, but not getting the bonus AD for all of your abilities sucks.
To make up for that, now it has the active it had 3 years ago where you get an auto attack reset, which was
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
absolutely a banger on Camille at the time. So, pretty disappointing. Auto attack
Yeah.
reset's nice and all, but it's nowhere near as cool as having like 100 AD on this item, which you could easily get on a lot of
Yeah,
champions.
I know you're a big fan of the stick of stats, and I agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily a big power nerf here, but it's sad that we're losing that. Okay.
Alright. Let's skipping. Alright, here comes, this is my favorite item they added. It's pretty simple. Unending Despair. It's kind of the same stat line as like Sunfire. We got 400 armor, 55 armor. It actually has some ability haste. Then the fun thing is it activates every 7 seconds for basically a dot, and it scales with your health, and then you heal 2.5 times the amount of damage you deal every 7 seconds.
Yeah.
This is my favorite item that they added by far, because I have such a Heartsteel Grasp Overgrowth boner. This is going to be such a funny item to have. And even think of it on like even Swain, even though it doesn't have any AP, it'll be absolutely ridiculous. And
especially if it's the magic pen items and does even more damage with it.
And then champions that have like already have healing effects like Trundle, it'll be stupid on them. I mean, the sky's the limit. This thing is going to be so ridiculous, and we haven't even talked about getting this item with Spirit Visage.
It doesn't say whether this is pre-mitigation or post-mitigation. I assume it's post-mitigation, so if you deal, because Cho'Gath with, 6,000 health, is going to deal 230 damage to every enemy champion around. But if that 230 magic damage only, takes off 111 health from the enemy, I think that's what you get 250% of for the heal.
Whatever it is, it's everybody around you. So
if this is pre-mitigation, this is absolutely fucking busted.
It's probably not, but even if it is, even if it isn't, which it probably isn't, it's still ridiculous. The only way this could have been more stupid is if you got like 1/10 of it from all the minions and monsters around you as well, or something.
Swain, Mundo, Cho'Gath, Galio. This is going to be really good on Galio, actually.
You could even rationalize getting this on something as silly as like Vladimir, even, and there's so many.
Without question, yeah, without question. He wants more AP on his items, but yeah, without question, like there's a case to be made there, because he can dive the enemy backlines where there's going to be 3 people so quickly, so easily. Yeah. Now, with that said, right, you have to be in combat 7 seconds to even proc it the first time. Vladimir has probably killed everyone by the 7-second mark. But for the tanks, for the Orns of the world, for the Mundos, for the Cho'Gaths,
the Mordekaisers.
For the Mordekaisers to some extent, yeah, this is crazy. The only thing that saves this from being busted is the fact that it only procs the first time after 7 seconds.
Don't care. It's OP. It's my favorite item that they added.
It's a very strong item, yeah.
I love this.
With a good stat line, too.
And I already tested. You can buy this with Sunfire Cape or the other Sunfire Cape, but not all 3. First thing I tried to do. Pretty cool. I like this one. I'm going to be building this on a lot of champions just for the fun of it.
This might be my single favorite change to the patch. Verdant Barrier, the kind of the lead up to Banshee's Veil, now has a Banshee's Veil effect, except with a longer 60-second cooldown that you have to wait between taking damage. Costs more, better stats. They got rid of the stupid stacking mechanic for killing minions. Perfect job by the item team on that one.
Does this still build into Banshee's Veil?
Yes.
So you get this even without finishing Banshee's Veil?
Yeah, but you only get it half as often. Like, you need to wait 60 seconds between taking damage to get it, whereas Banshee's Veil is 30 now.
That's pretty cool, but I feel like...
Yeah, excellently done.
I feel like they could have made it a little cheaper if they wanted you to just sit on some garbage item and get a Banshees thing earlier that had no stats on it, basically.
I guess, but I like what they did here.
That's almost as much as a full support item.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
It is, but but it leads up to a really good Banshees veil now too.
That's true. Don't really have much to say about Vigilant Wardstone. I've only seen someone buy that like once the entirety that it's been in the game.
Oh, and they removed the best part of it, where it
I know.
ends all of your stats.
Kind of silly. That was like the only fantasy of building it was to get all that silly shit.
Yeah. Like at the end of the game, like if you really want a bunch of control wards, because like every fight's gonna be important, you need that 6th item. Yeah, do not ever buy this item now. Moving on.
Talked about Voidstone earlier, or staff. Now it gives more AP. Still gives more magic pen than the other alternative they goofishly added to the game. But now this thing costs even more money. I mean, it's still going to be a mainstay as long as it has the most magic pen. It's pretty much the gist of it.
Yeah, more AP is probably a better item for most of the game.
Alright, getting to the end here. We've got another goofish item that I won't even dignify by saying the name of. And this one just seems to increase the effectiveness of all of the other items in the game that have the energized effect. Got Static Shiv, Rapid Fire Cannon, what's the other one? The one
Static Shiv, Rapid Fire.
There's the third one that takes the goofy looking Storm Surge,
No, Storm Surge is the mage item. There's some type of assassin item now that energizes.
It was super broken.
I'll look for it. Well, I'll look for it while you talk. Go on.
It was part of the Doom build. It was an AD item that had 20% crit. I forgot what it was
called. Oh, you're talking about the windy one, the Zephyr?
No, that's not in the game. But anyway, that has an energized effect too. So this is kind of the big ticket, make all of those items better. And it has the slow that Duskblade used to have. So that's cool, I guess. This is a lethality item, and all those other items are crit items, so it's kind of goofy, but whatever have you.
Oh, this is the lethality item. Yeah, this is the one I was mentioning, the 99% slow, as the joke for Sona. But yeah, like, I don't know, like this being able to just slow at the beginning of the combo rather than later on, like with Sherelda's Grudge, is more useful. And will help you get the combo off more easily if you're not a super sticky assassin. So, yeah, I think this is a useful item. Still provides the standard 55 AD and 18 lethality that all the other assassin items do. Yeah, if you don't have a lot of stickiness innately in your kit, this is a good place to go as an early assassin item. Otherwise, if you do have a lot of stickiness already, you can probably skip this in favor of some of the other effects. It's fine. I think that it occupies a good place in the game.
Next up, we got Warmogs. It lost 50 health. Shameful. It's $100 more expensive. It lost its ability haste, which is another heartbreaker. And they made it so you need even more health to activate its effect now. Now you need 1,300 bonus.
Soraka easily now.
Yeah, instead of 1,100. But to make up for all of those nerfs, now you get 10% bonus movement speed while the effect is regenerating. So that's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, a lot more ability to get out of fights or to get around the map in general. You could walk back to lane quicker after a teleport. There's a lot of cool things that you can do here. In addition to that, 5% extra movement speed on the basic stat line. So, this gives you a lot more movement speed, and I think for most Warmogs users, that's a lot more important than ability haste.
Yeah, you might be right.
I think it's a smart change.
Shen is sad, though. That's all I can say.
Shut up about Shen already.
Alright, we got some... What else is left here? Let's see. Wit's End lost the damage. That's pretty much the gist of that. World Atlas is the new starting item that every support has to buy now. That's the one that upgrades into everything. Yumu's lost everything that was cool about it, and now it's back to the state it was in 5, 10, and 15 years ago. Not much to say about that. Alright, this is the 5th and final support item that you can build when all your shit's upgraded.
You have to say the name of it.
I refuse. And this is probably the one you might be seeing the most as we see more mages take the field bot. Because this is definitely the one you're going to want to see on Brand, Zyra,
most mages want
Xerath.
this.
Everybody's going to... Karma probably is probably going to take this too. I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe.
Because it's dirt cheap and it's a dime store Ludens. So you're just going to take this anyway. So yeah. You damage someone and then you blow them up. And it deals 50 plus 3% of their max health. Pretty good.
Yeah, this is 100 bonus damage against like squishies, which is not nearly as good as like the Dream Maker, which is giving you like 90 bonus on hit, you know, for your ally plus the shields. But against tanks, this is really nice, right? Like 3,000, 4,000 health, let's say 4,000 health tank. You're gonna deal 170 extra damage to them. It's gonna make it a little bit easy for the mages to hit the tanks. Just remember, mages don't really want to be hitting tanks. So even though, yeah, I think like the you know the Brands and the Xeraths of the world will probably be using this pretty often. I still think that a lot of them are going to be going to other things. Obviously, like you know, Brand can't activate Dreammaker. He doesn't have a healer or shield. Same with Xerath. But they might be going to something like the one that gives you a movement speed boost after you damage an enemy instead.
I don't know, man. You're not considering the greed factor, and this has a pretty generous cooldown for like poke champions. So
yeah, I still think like most mage supports will end up going for this, just because there's not really another great item for them to go for. But the amount of damage it's giving you is not that great. It's gonna be you know, nice in the mid game when you're still really relevant. Late game, especially against anybody, it's just a little bit of bonus damage, and you know your kit is gonna do a lot more than it will. I think this is fine. Like this is basically just when you do damage, you do more damage. Might have even liked if they got a little more creative with how that damage came down, but you know. I could complain more, but I'm out of time, and so, yeah, I think this item is okay.
Alright, luckily we only have 2 more things to talk about, so let's speed run this shit.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Zeke's, which I'm surprised is still in the game, honestly. It lost its little link-up effect, which is kind of depressing, because that's kind of what made it cool and unique. So now it's just a go in with your ultimate, and you have some... Yeah, you just go in with your ultimate, and you slow people, I guess.
So, yeah, this is a tank item for people that like to be around a lot of enemies for a long period of time. That's the best way I could say it.
Yeah, I feel like if they were going to gut it this hard, and this wasn't even a freaking mythic before, they probably should have just made this thing last for like 10 seconds, you know? That would have actually given it some more value.
Yeah, or even until you're out of combat would be pretty cool.
That would be, yeah, that'd be pretty strong actually.
Make it more expensive. It doesn't need to be a 2200 support level item. You could, you know, this is a tank item now, right? You can make this a 3200 gold item, give it some more health, and have it last until you're out of combat.
That would be busted. Cool. I'd be taking this on Swain then.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to the other DOTs, I don't think it's busted. I think it would be fair. Either way, like this. I don't know, like, still probably a good, like, you know, engage support item, right?
I don't know, I've always thought it was kind of lackluster, to be honest.
Yeah, you might be right. And then Zhonya's, they gave it a lot more ability power, better stats, costs a little bit more, no longer has ability haste, but I think 40 AP is, I'll pay ability haste for that.
Alright, now, since we only got 8 minutes to go before this took 4 hours, let's talk about why they chose to change the active name. You feel me?
On what?
On Zhonya's.
Oh, on Zeke's?
No, on Zhonya's.
I don't know.
Man.
I mean, their item names were so bad, they had to come up with like one cool name, right? Oh, also because convergence means like the coming together of 2 different things.
Bro, I'm talking about the Zhonya's Hourglass active.
What is the active called now?
Now it's Time Stop.
Oh, that's a pretty cool. Oh, here's why. They wanted to make sure that you don't have this at the same time that you have at the same time that you have the Seeker's Arm Guard.
All right, I was just trying to waste more of your time, but
Okay.
that was actually interesting.
All right. In 4 words, or less, what do you think of this patch?
Uh, just fucking unnecessary.
Hmm.
That about do it.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with great intentions, mediocre execution.
I feel like everyone was probably getting very useful and comfortable with the current state of the game, so that means duck. We better change everything.
All right. Well, I will try to go get the doctor that I'm seeing to watch our 4-hour patch notes. I will probably be waiting at least 4 hours there anyway.
It's gonna
But
take me at least that long just to upload this crazy ass thing.
can't be late. So I am out of here. Been a pleasure, Chrissy. To everyone, enjoy season 14. Hopefully, it'll be a lot better than season 13. And see you on the Rift.
All right, see you guys.